Some of you don't. What he was referring to is we went through in some of the workshops we've talked about the concept of body snatching and having your astral field being manipulated by forces from the fourth dimensional field or higher, and he had undergone some problems with that, and fortunately with working with the guardians and with the energy techniques that we are introducing, he was able to get that out of his field, and he's been wonderful ever since. So he wanted to come up and say hi to the people who knew a little bit about that story and why he hasn't been here for the past number of workshops, because he was recuperating home. Okay, well, looks like our sound systems are in order now. I want to thank you all for coming. Are we on film? Can I just do my thing? Okay. Got audio video department over here is Mark Darling, and I'm very grateful for him because he's making it available, all of the presentations available for other people who want them on video and things. So it's worth the sometimes waiting to get things set up. Now tonight is kind of I wouldn't call it a lecture, because that's when somebody kind of stands there and talks at you. I wouldn't call it a workshop, because in my definition of workshop, for anybody that's been to mine, that means Mylar's up here and like lots of information given to you and kind of like crammed at you, kind of like if you were in college or high school or something. This is neither of those. I haven't found a term yet, lecture, workshop. There's somewhere in between. Possibly an energy clinic might be a good way to describe what I would like to do tonight. Now, the theme of tonight's presentation is learning to use holistic healing applications, not just healing, but the whole holistic perspective. Holism is about becoming more whole, body, mind, spirit. And it's about bringing that perspective into your daily life and into the world through your daily life and your contact with other people. What I'd like to accomplish tonight in exploring the art of relationships, which is really what makes the world go round. And if you look at the world the way it is out there, there are some really poor attitudes and beliefs that are being used as we relate to each other and to society. If we look at the business world, for example, that we're all very dependent on just to function here, we find competition is the main focus. We find step on whoever you have to step on to get where you need to get, or somebody else will step on you. These are belief systems that are right now really at the core of our culture. And it's because of those belief systems that our culture is eroding. And it will continue to erode as long as those belief systems of competition, survival of the fittest, judgment toward others rather than loving others. There's so many sick thoughts in our world that we wonder why our world has sick manifestations. Economies that are unstable, people that are warring with each other. You can live in an apartment building with, say, 400 people. How many of you guys really get along with each other? Most of the time, you just kind of like, hustle by each other in the halls and, sometimes whisper behind doors about can't stand the one in 6B, that kind of thing. And you don't really know them. You've just seen them and you think you know what they're about. We've been taught through our culture, through being raised in this system, certain ways of using our minds. And in the ways that we've used our minds, we only perpetuate the problem. When we go into holism, we're going into a way of using our minds that's from a higher level of consciousness. And that will change the things that go on out here. Now, for the people that have been here before, that are familiar with my work, we've gone through the science of Kilanta, and we've gone through the interdimensional structure. We've gone through the ascension teachings as far as the structure of 15-dimensional identity and the DNA and the fire letters and how all of that goes together. Some people haven't been in those workshops. So what I'm going to do is I usually try to do when there's a mixed group. I have to kind of bounce back and forth between levels of knowledge. If some of the stuff you've heard, that's because the other people who weren't here haven't heard it. So I'm kind of going to try to integrate it. But I want to keep it focused, and I want to keep it short and sweet as far as what I talk at you tonight, because I want to get down to energy work. If we're going to heal ourselves, heal our apartment building that we live in, heal our job situation, heal our world, we need to use our minds differently. For the people who don't understand yet the paradigm of 15-dimensional structure that we use, that is very scientific, for the people who need it to be scientific before they'll accept that it's real, we have that. But we're not going to focus on that tonight. That's the intellectual stuff. There's a place for it. We have it. What we're going to focus on tonight is building bridges of light. Now, building bridges of light is something that can be done when we understand interdimensional structure. It's something that can be done when we realize light. What does that mean? Okay, what we perceive as light here, inner light, outer light, is something that has an oscillation rate that's faster than that of our own. When we are closing our eyes and imagining light, we are imagining wave patterns of higher frequency. So when we do visualizations, when we use our minds creatively inside, we are creating literal manifestation patterns by using the core of creation, which are scalar waves. We're directing them with light. So when we do the exercises that we're going to do tonight, and I'm going to focus on doing, because you can read about riding a bike, and you're not going to be able to ride it. You can learn about riding a bike by reading about it, but you have to get on the bike and do it if you expect to be able to ride the bike. Tonight, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about justifying the existence of 15-dimensional structure and explaining exactly which frequency is which. That's what Cathara Healing will do that for you. What we're going to do is energy work. We're going to do a couple of different exercises. And that's why I have my notes here, because I want to see which ones. Now, when I come up here, I feel the energy in the room. I do it from the heart chakra. If you ever go into a group and you're speaking, feel from here and project energy out from here. Spread it through the room. You'll get a feel for where the consciousness is in the room. I try to direct what I'm speaking about to the consciousness in the room at the time, which makes my program a little more flexible than somebody that just, A, B, C, D, E, whether or not you're ready to hear it or want to hear it. Tonight, I want to introduce energy techniques. What we're going to do in the beginning is learn some basic energy sensing. Now, we've done some of this in other workshops, but what I want to do is first take you into some basic hands-on energy sensing. Then we're going to pair up, and we're going to do this in pairs, and we're going to first learn to sense ourselves in something else. Then we're going to learn to interrelate with each other in a little bit different way. We're used to holding our energy fields in a certain way compared to other people in other cultures. Some people hold their fields way out here, and when you move past them, you get a really strong feeling of who they are and a real emotional feeling. With American culture, and especially in big cities, you find a tightness in the fields. We don't want to interact with what's around us. We've seen enough and been through enough where we tend to go and pull our fields in. We desensitize ourselves that way, and it's a survival mechanism. If we're going to learn the art of a relationship and the art of bringing the holistic view into relationship, first we need to become aware of the fact that we have our auric fields, our chakra systems. Then we have to become aware of personally how we're using them right now. We can do that most easily sometimes by being put in a situation where we need to or have to interact with another person. Usually we interact in kind of like horses that go down the street with those little blinders on so they don't get distracted. We just move around like that. You're not going to experience the person that walks by you. You're going to see them and flash, they're gone. Tonight we're going to start with experiencing some more of ourselves. Then experiencing each other a little bit. First in pairs. We'll find out what it feels like to feel another person. Not somebody who you happen to have a relationship with yet, but somebody just like somebody you might meet on the street. We're going to do some exercises that will take us into a level of emotional soul level intimacy that most people at first are going to kind of go, you know, like, I don't want to do that. You'll find one of the first reactions to some of the exercises is, especially when you like have to, you know, turn your chairs toward each other and, you know, you're knee to knee and you're looking at each other's eyes. First you kind of get giggly, you know, this, you know, yeah, you do. Then you kind of, that's a defense mechanism, by the way. That's part of the way the personality says, I'm not going to engage. No, I'm going to be right here and I'm going to hide behind myself and I'm going to give you a giggly little bouncy energy thing and you can give the same to me and let's, you know, shake hands and leave. This is how most people are taught to react to each other. But you're not going to be able, for one, to become more aware of what needs healing in your world if you desensitize yourself to it all the time. Within this group, anyway, we're in a situation where we're dealing, for one, with teachings and with energies that address the fact that yes, there's negative stuff out there, and yes, there are certain times you do need to protect yourself. We're not telling you, open your heart chakra, open your astral field, and let anything that wants to come in. You know, some people that work with energy, they work with the love concept, and love is important. We do need to love each other. But when they tell you just indiscriminately, open your heart to everybody and everything, your heart chakra happens to be connected to your astral body. It means opening your astral field to anything that wants to walk into it. There are ways that we can learn to do intimacy without bringing harm to ourselves. We can learn to interact and feel each other as beings while still protecting the integrity of our own biofields. One of the first things that you do when you're doing any energy work, and the people who are in Cathara healing know this, is the Maharic seal technique. There's the long version that's in the Cathara healing program, which is better to use because it makes your the energy that you're creating in your field, it makes it stronger and it makes it last longer. But you can do a real fast version that if you happen to be at a workshop and somebody says, okay, now I want you to feel your neighbor, you know, you don't have to worry about, ew, what might be in my neighbor's field that I don't want to take home with me. Now, most people that have anything to do with this work at all know at least by now that if you walk into a situation like that, just because some workshop leader tells you to open your field to somebody doesn't mean you do it, okay? Unless they tell you first. Here is how you make sure you don't take on anything in the other people's fields or anything from the higher frequencies that may want to mess with you. With the Maharic recoding process that's taught in Cathara Level 1, we get deeply into using a process of 12th dimensional frequency sealing, which creates literally a pillar of scalar waves within the bioenergetic field that will block out anything but your own higher identity structure that tries to get in. Anything that wants to communicate with you or interact with you is going to have to go through your own higher identity structure and get permission, basically. It protects you from astral attack from the fourth dimensional fields. It also protects you from not intended attack, but from picking up other people's goop. We all have goop in our auric field, and once you get your D4 vision on, you'll see it. There's stuff called etheric mucus that looks like long, stringy, icky stuff that hangs in people's fields if they've been sick or if they've had a really rough day at work. You can get all sorts of weird stuff just hanging in your fields without you meaning to have it there. And unless you happen to be somebody who every morning gets up and say, okay, what do my fields look like now? Most of us, you know, even though we know we should, don't get to do that. With the Maharic seal, you don't have to worry about picking up any of the goop from anybody else's field, so you'll be safe when you do the exercises. The exercises that I would like to teach you tonight, now they're not written down, they're going to be available on the video. They're coming through spontaneously, which I'm doing more and more of these days. There's a reason for that. When I work with my higher parts, my higher dimensional identity, to interact with the group directly, if I preset a pattern of things to do, sometimes I need to do that to keep a structure. But I'm not interacting with the group yet. When I'm here and in your energy, I can feel more of what's appropriate for the energies of the people that are in the group. So these exercises are going to be new to both of us. And when you work with your higher identity, you'll get to a point where you could actually do that. Pick up a microphone and say, here, I'm going to teach you this. What am I teaching you? I don't know yet. We'll find out as we go. Because you will learn to trust the Spirit as it moves through you. You will learn to become, in your moment point, a vessel for the direct expression of the one Spirit that is all of our spirit. The one Spirit that many people call God, some people call Source, some people call it universal consciousness. Doesn't matter what you call it. It's all of those things and way beyond those things. But there is a way of being that you learn a level of trust in yourself where you can simply say, let me be a vessel for thy good works. And you know it will come. That's part of my training as I work with giving workshops, because I was born with a Virgo imprint, and I'm not too much into astrology, but there is some influences and there are some characteristics with the signs that do apply to to people born under those signs. Virgos tend to be extremely analytical and perfectionists and do something over 5 million times until it's perfect, even if they could have like got by with not too bad, let's get on to the next thing. So for me, going spontaneous is a real step, but that's what I'm doing tonight. Now, spontaneous for me isn't hard in certain ways because I've been trained for many, many years. In order to open myself, I've had to learn things, and I've been trained by working with my own spiritual guidance with the Guardian Alliance on energy technique and those kind of things. So the things that are going to move through the audience tonight are things that I have been trained in. They were part of my own training at different parts, different times. So I know they work. The first thing I want to do is a short version of the Maharic Seal, which is getting your 12th dimensional frequency pillar up in your field, so any energy work that you do, you will be fine doing. It will clear out anything that's disharmonic. The reason for that is the 12th dimensional frequency bands contain all of the frequency bands of all the dimensions below them. They represent the Christed imprint, the fourth harmonic liquid light pre-matter imprint that everything manifests on down here. That is the part of our beings that has not been distorted through its processes of moving through the lower dimensional scale. When we realign, this is what the Christian teachings were really originally about. When we realign with the Christed imprint, our Maharic shield, our 12th dimensional identity level, and the scalar grid that holds that level of identity, we are recalibrating all of the frequencies that compose our being, our bodies, and everything around us as we go. We are putting them back to their original state of purity. So when you bring down and bring up the 12th dimensional pillar, you are creating a pillar of energy harmonization, that anything comes into your field, it gets recalibrated to what it's supposed to be. So if there's negative stuff that comes in, it gets reversed into harmonic energy. This is what's useful with this pillar. So a couple people here that were in Egypt with us, we use this technique, and it's not hard to use, but you need to know, that it exists. We use this technique to recode some of the sites over in Egypt, literally, to change the energy grid that certain temples and things were built on, because they were being used for ill purposes. And we use the 12th dimensional frequencies to reset those grids to what they were originally supposed to be. So you can use it on planetary grid work, but you can also use it on personal grid work. There's a fast version that I'm going to teach, and I'm going to have to get rid of some of this lighting. I don't know if it bothers you, but I find this very, very bright. Maybe it's because it's coming right. Heard of the process before. We use a symbol code, which is a scalar wave guide, that's called the Hierophant symbol. You can visualize the symbol quickly by simply picturing the image of a flat, two-dimensional Star of David, or six-pointed star. We call that the Merkaba star. And we will picture it in the color of pale silver. The color is important, and even if you can't visualize yet, some people don't have the DNA strand activation yet to get clear visuals, just imagining that you're visualizing it is still creating that energy pattern there, even though you're not perceiving it through the sixth chakra yet. So it's a pale silver image of a Star of David. Cathar Healing explains why that's used. So we'll just imagine that symbol. We'll imagine the symbol at the pineal gland in the center of the brain. And just spend a minute, not a whole minute, just a little bit of time getting a clear feeling of the energy of that thought form that you're creating now, the Hierophant symbol. It's the activation code for your 12th dimensional Maharic shield. Visualize the pale silver Star of David, Merkaba star, in the center of your brain, in the pineal gland. Take a few gentle breaths, and then on a final inhale, inhale and move your energy up to grab that symbol code, and on the exhale, push it down rapidly, down into the Earth's core. And if you feel like you missed the first time, you only got halfway down, go up to where you feel like it got stuck, and another inhale, and exhale it down into the Earth's core. Now, you can simply take 3 breaths. On the inhale, you will draw energy in, and on the exhale, you will push energy out into that symbol code down in the Earth's core. And as you do, you will notice a disk of spinning pale silver light emerges way down in the Earth's core, about halfway through the planet. It's a huge disk that goes all the way through the planet and out to the atmosphere. This is the Earth's Maharic shield. Another inhale, draw in energy, and push the energy into the Maharic shield of the planet. You will notice that the shield begins to spin. Then one more inhale, and an exhale. Down into the Maharic shield of the planet. And this time, you'll begin to feel, sense, a little wobbling of that spin. It's beginning to spin faster. And now you'll just inhale some energy halfway up to a point 12 inches below the feet. It's in the earth, but it's 12 inches below your feet. And right now it'll be down in the ceiling, on this floor below you. So inhale from this time from the Maharic shield of the planet. Inhale energy up. It's right below the feet, and then exhale energy. And right below your feet, you will notice another shield of pale silver energy pops out, another disc. This is your personal Maharic shield. Again, this time you're inhaling energy upward from the center of the earth, upward and into a point 12 inches below the feet. Exhale, and you will notice your own Maharic shield, pale silver shield of light, disk of light below the feet, begins to spin faster. And on this next inhale, exhale, we're going to bring enough energy up with enough force to pop that disk upward into a pillar of pale silver light that runs all the way up through the sun and out to where you don't need to worry about it, and down into the Earth's core. So we're going to inhale energy up from the Earth's center to the Maharic shield of your personal Maharic shield, and push hard, and then visualize the field popping up. It's like a pillar of light that pops up surrounding you. The more you do this, the stronger you will feel this thing pop up. You can get this if you get the synchronization with the breath. And this was only a few breaths. There's more steps to this in the long version of the process. But just by using these steps alone, you have created a temporary 12th dimensional seal on your biofields. You can use this, and I suggest you do, anywhere, even if you're going to a rock concert. Just bring it up, do it at home before you go. You can get about 2 hours, hour or two out of this version. You can get about 3 hours using the long version. But the more you do it, the more you will feel this frequency in your field, the more you will feel it run through your body. Right now, when I look into the room from the fourth dimensional perspective, I can see different sizes and shapes of little discs spinning below most people's feet. And I can see varying degrees of a current, a cord of energy that comes up from the Earth's core, that comes up into that shield and is running up through the main vertical current in people. Some are wide, some are small, depending on how much energy they're bringing out. So you have just created something in doing this. It may seem like a silly little, oh, I breathe 3 times and poof, yeah, right. But in truth, once you get to know what you're doing and you realize what you're doing with frequency, and you realize when you're using specific color, you're directing specific wave spectra, because each dimension has a primary wave spectra associated with it, you'll begin to realize the technology you are using. And you know what's funny? Nobody said technology had to be hard. The best and most lasting things in the universe tend to be those that can be as complicated as you want, but also as simple as you need. The Maharic seal that we just did, the quick version, is a beginning point of learning a in your pocket, take it with you anywhere you go, primary energy mechanic that will keep you safe. You can use this if someone is attacking you, if you happen to be walking down the street and a mugger grabs you. If you can keep your focus enough to visualize that stuff, throw it down into the earth core, forget the 3 breaths, just bring it up, pop out your shield and pop your thing up, your pillar up. You can have amazing effects. I had an experience with that when I didn't know how to activate, at the age of 14, did not know how to activate the Maharic shield. I did not know consciously about the seal, but I had one of the guardians do it for me. I was at a movie show, and someone had followed me into the ladies' room and attempted to attack me. And there was nobody else in the ladies' room but me and this man, and he pushed me into the stall and closed the door behind him. And there was nobody around to hear me scream. One of the guardians that I work with popped up the Maharic seal. I didn't know what had happened. All I knew is I could see almost oscillating in the air, this pillar of light around me. And the strangest thing happened. The man stepped back like that as if he'd been smacked with something, looked at me, went into tears and said, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. Please forgive me," turned around and ran. And I just kind of came on going, what just happened? You know? It took me years to understand what happened. What had happened was one of my own higher parts, actually, activated the Maharic seal to protect me because they knew I was going to get hurt. This is what you can do for yourself. You can learn to do this for yourself. So now that we're all safe and protected and tucked nicely into our pillars, and for the people who are just getting used to this technique, when you work with me, I've become kind of like a living transmitter of frequency. All right, when you get to a certain point with your DNA activation and your chakra activations, and you have certain agreements with those of higher dimensional fields to help humanity evolve, you allow, or you know, some people do, some don't, but I do. I allow my biofield to be used as a transmitter of frequency. Now right now it's like a subtle 12th dimensional sub-frequency that's going out to help sustain all those pillars that you just brought up. So if you're not real good at it yet and your pillar's not really strong, it gets amplified for the fact that I'm holding through my field a group pillar. The group pillar is called the Shaddai and it means the pillar of first cause light. It's something that one person alone can't do, but it can be done when two or more are gathered. That was in the line, in the Christian line, when two or more are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of you, be my name, was referring to the Christed imprint. It was referring to the Maharic seal. It was referring to our own Christed levels of identity, as well as those that Christ stood for in coming to bring those teachings to us. So when we're using the Maharic seal alone, we are bringing in our individual pillar of Christed energy. When we are using it in a group, we are creating a part of the pillar of first cause light, which is a planetary Maharic seal. So every time we do it, we help the planet. You are safely tucked into your own little Maharic pillars right now, which means you're not going to pick up any stuff out of my field that you don't want to pick up. This is why I teach you to do that with you first. Because, hey, I'm a transmitter, and if there's anything that you don't want, or your soul doesn't want, or your oversoul doesn't want from me in your fields, you have a right to know how to make sure that doesn't happen. That's why I teach you, seal your own field, make your own pillar first, and whenever you do group work, always keep your own personal seal. You can do group Merkaba work, but not if you let go of your own personal seal and your own personal Merkaba. Some people teach people how to do the group energy work, but they have them open their energy fields to the whole group without retaining the personal pillar. Don't ever do that unless you want to take on God knows what that everybody else in that group is carrying. So you're safely tucked into your pillars, and that is being sustained by the bigger pillar of energy that's being generated through my fields and through the group field. First thing I would like us to do, and maybe we'll spend a lot of time in the dark here. Do you like this? Do you like sitting in the dark? Yeah. Good. Good. I'm finding that much more peaceful. What I'd really like to do at some point is have a place where I can have nice candles and maybe some real peaceful music in the background, but we don't have the ability to get all that together. You know, we're on a mad dash to get to New York on the airplanes and all that, so it's a little hard. So this is good anyway. What I want to do first is an energy sensing thing. We're going to do it in two ways. Now, everybody, I think, has an object with them, some type of object. It can be a pencil, it can be a tape recorder, something you can physically hold in your hand. Doesn't matter what it is, preferably something small that you can put in your palm, but if it's bigger, that's okay too. Just make sure your palm, your left hand, is on it. Put your left palm on the object. And just take a few relaxing breaths. You don't even have to look at the object. First, I want you to feel its shape and its weight in your left palm. Try to get a feel for its weight. Once you start to get a feel for the weight of the thing in your left palm, transfer it over into your right palm. And try to sense the subtle difference that object will feel like from one palm to the other. The weight of that object will feel a little bit different from one palm to the other. See if you can detect which it is. Which is heavier? Because there's an answer to that question that has to do with how your energy fields work. You can try it again. Put it back in the left, feel the weight, and put it over to the right. Feel the weight. Try to get a feel for which hand it feels heavier in. Okay, you can speak that out loud if anybody wants to say, if anybody feels it. Very good. You guys are great. Do you know why? That is your magnetic chakra, as far as the palm, center palm chakras go. It is drawing that energy to you more fully. It is literally making the weight feel heavier because it has your body is pulling in a stronger draw while it's transmitting out this hand, which is pushing away, which will make it seem lighter. That was good. I didn't expect that many people to be able to pick that up. Everybody said left hand. That was excellent. Yeah. Okay. Now what we just did was take a regular object and begin to feel some of its energy qualities.
Does that work the same for left-handed and right-handed people?
Yeah, primarily, unless they have pole reversals. There are, like I'm left-handed, okay? That means I have actually a stronger current running through my, pulling in my left hand than I would if I were right-handed. You will get whatever hand is dominant will be a stronger imprint than the other one, but they still basically work. They're both electromagnetic. You have the palm chakra in the left hand draws energy in, and the back of the hand transmits energy out, where it's the reverse on the right hand. The right palm transmits energy out, and the back draws energy in. Okay, so that's the basic structure of the body, whichever hand is the dominant. You just may have a stronger pull on the magnetic current than you do on the push if you're left-handed. That's the case with me. But some people, it depends on the wiring too. It's not that simple to say just because I'm left-handed, does this mean I'm always, have a stronger drawing current. I think that answers the question, though. Does that answer the question? Okay. All right. Now we did a little bit of sensing of an object, just the energy, just the weight of the object. If we go back into core principles of creation, we realize that object isn't really there, neither are we. We're just all energy signatures. We are formations of consciousness. We are all energy. This is what we need to begin learning to experience each other as. Ourselves, each other, and the world around us. Because this is where we start to learn things. And we start to see beyond the illusions. Because bodies and buildings and matter forms are illusions. Nice solid illusions when you're down here. But they do not tell you the truth of a being. They do not tell you the truth of a reality that you walk into. You may walk into a beautiful room with beautifully whitely dressed angels, and they could be devils in disguise. If you can't sense those energy signatures, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between energies that are positive and harmonious and energies that aren't. So we're learning to sense energy signatures. I want you to go back to the object. This time I simply want you to put it in your left hand. Forget its size, shape, and even forget its weight. What I want you to sense for next is a quality of temperature, heat versus cold, that you will feel not so much where the object touches your palm, but in the energy, just a few little, like quarter of an inch around the object's etheric body. We'll give you a temperature read. You can do this with any object or any person. Begin to detect temperature in the energy field. Once you get where you can detect temperature a little bit, the next thing is to move your consciousness into the center of the object. This you can do in a variety of ways. Some people just have a natural flow where, okay, that means put my consciousness here, and they shift. Other people go, how do I do that? How do I move my consciousness into something else that's stuck in my head? If you're one of the people who feel your consciousness is stuck between your eyes and your head, like most of us are trained to have it focused there, visualize your consciousness as a point of white light in the center of your brain and put it wherever you want it. If you want it in the center of that object, create an energy line between the center of your brain and the center of that object. And now a portion of your consciousness, as a form of a little white dot scalar wave, is in the object. Try to get a feeling for what that part of your awareness is experiencing. Try to get a sense of the energy. How fast or slow does the energy inside that object seem to be moving? It will also have a sound to it. There is a tone that goes with it that you may first feel before you hear. You may feel it as a vibration. Try to experience the reality of that object rather than the illusion of its matter cloaking. It's there. Once you begin to feel the reality of the energy signature, you're beginning to experience the object rather than just perceive the object. You are beginning to be able to directly cognate some of what it means to be that object. For that object is composed of units of consciousness, just like you are. By sensing that object, you are sensing another field of consciousness. And if you can do it with an object, you can do it with a person, an animal, a plant, a group of people, a planet, or the universe. Energy sensing, basic energy sensing skills are like basic bicycle riding skills. The more you use them, the more you develop the balance, to the point where you get the balance and you just hop on and go. But little exercises like this take you to a point where you get sensitized enough to do the next step. Now the next step I'd like you to try is put the object aside for a minute. We're going to use it one more time, but it's going to be hard to without a mic stand. I want you to put your palms together, first till they're touching, and feel the heat. Feel one palm against the other. And then move them about 1/8 inch apart. And still try to sense the heat that's there. And then kind of move them in and out just a little bit, back and forth. I'm going to show you this and then pick the mic back up because I can't do it with the mic in my hands. Okay. Now put them up like this. Move them around, a little circular, then in and out. You'll begin to feel fuzzy energy in there. You're feeling your own etheric body. If you don't believe you have an auric field, feel this. You do have one. You just have to focus your attention on finding it. And that's just the beginning of your auric fields. Feel it. And try to build it up. There's going to be a current taking place between the two palm chakras, magnetic and electrical. Electrical will run through magnetic, and you have a closed circuit between the two. You can build the charge by breath. Breathe in, hold it in the heart chakra, throw it down the right hand, transmitter, then inhale it back up this hand. And every time you circle the energy breath that way, you will throw more energy into the circuit in the palm. You can get it to the point where if you close your eyes and breathe and then throw it, you will find your palms actually jump at the surge of energy that ran down. And you can play with this at home. You can get to the point where by moving this energy in and out, synchronizing with the breath, you will start to feel what almost feels like a metal rod. It can get so strong in there. It becomes a rod. You could pretend that you were holding a metal tube here, and it moves that way as if you were, and if you go off of it, it'll be like dropping the tube. But you can get to the point where you feel a solid, not physically perceivable, mass of energy. Yeah, it's hard to use. I need the third hand. I guess I'm having a hard time with the mic here because he's not picking up on the thing. Anyway, when you do the thing with your palms and you build that circuit of energy, the more you do this is a great thing to do to play. If you want something to do and you're bored instead of doodling, do this. Nobody knows what you're doing, you know, they don't care. You know, there's a guy over there playing with his hands, who cares, you know? Yeah. Every time you do this, you strengthen your ability to be sensitized. You strengthen your energy sensing ability in the palms. The palms are important. They're receivers. They're like feelers. You know, we picture aliens and things with like little antennas, guys from Mars and the whole bit. Well, you know what? We're walking antennas. We're walking scalar waves. And they are antennas, and they draw in energy from all over the universe. When we begin to sensitize ourselves to being aware of the energy that we carry, we begin to open up a whole new perceptual level of what reality is about. We begin to be able to see reality and to experience it directly. So play with your hands for a couple of minutes. I'm not going to let it go for 5 minutes here. Just for a couple of minutes till you can build that current. I want you to be able to feel it as if there's a bar of energy, or a bar of metal, let's say, in between there, a circular bar of metal or a tube. And pretend you're holding it first. And then pretend you're moving it a little, and you have to move the palms the right way together, or you drop the bar. If you move this one too fast, you drop it. When you play with this enough, you can get to the point where you feel a solid current built there. And where this hand moves, this one will want to go in its opposite direction. You will find a very active circuit. Once you find that, you can begin to cup the hands, in the praying, kind of an exaggerated praying hands position, and begin to make that rod of energy turn into a ball. And with the breath, you simply energize it more by sending energy from the heart chakra down through the right hand. And before you suck it in with the left hand, with the inhale, let it roam around in that ball for a while and strengthen the energy current there. Begin to feel it tingle at the fingertips, where now you're getting your fingertips activated, because you'll be able to feel it. You can play with this enough where you can get, like, it feels like a basketball of warm fuzzy energy in there. And you can use that for a lot of things. Old martial artists used to use it to wipe people out when they were doing their confrontational battles and things, but we're going to use it for love and healing purposes instead. Okay, now what you've just done is sensitize the palms, the neurological structure, the brain. You've opened up new currents of, let's turn these switches on. We're encountering a new set of tunnels, let's say, and there's light switches here. You just turn the lights on in a certain set of nerve endings that you don't usually pay attention to. And when you don't pay attention to them, they go dormant. So now that you have that sensitivity built up, I want you to pick up your object again. Whatever object you were holding before. Put it back in the left hand. And now with the inhale breath, put that little spark of your consciousness in the center of the object, inside of it. The inhale breath. Inhale a replica imprint of that energy up your arm and into your heart chakra. And then exhale it out into the heart chakra. Do you experience any more of a reality of that object than you did the way it was done before? Can you feel a little more, perhaps, temperature variation, a little more strength in whether it vibrates fast or slow, a little more sound, perhaps? Usually, by sensitizing your own system first, you will be able to experience much more of the energy reality of something else that you're trying to understand. Crystals are wonderful for doing this with, because crystals have a consciousness that's very similar to the structure of our original DNA silicate matrix. So crystals and the consciousness they're composed of actually speak to our biologies in a direct cognition sort of way. And they have their own type of consciousness, and there's a sharing that happens. I would have liked to have had a bunch of crystals to give you, but I'm still trying to find ones that I can afford where I could give them to a bunch of people. Now, once we get sensitized to a little object, the next thing that's helpful is to become more sensitized to ourselves. If becoming sensitive to what is really going on around us is a way to assist in enhancing the art of relationship into a higher level, into a holistic view, then it's worth spending the time developing these skills, these little things to do with your energy and your attention and your mind. I want you to be able to go home tonight with an experience of running and paying attention to these energies. So we're going to try to go into ourself for a minute. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Meditation is great. But there's one portion of the self that has been dormant for many, 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 many years, many centuries, many thousands and thousands of years. It's our core imprint. It's a seed. You call it the seed of the diamond sun, which refers to the DNA matrix that we originally carried, the 12th strand. At the base of the spine, there is the seed of the diamond sun. That was our original connection to our avatar levels of identity in pre-matter, before we entered the matter systems. Just like you moved your consciousness from between your eyes and the middle of your head down into an object, you can do the same thing into different parts of your body. You can do it into anything. Once you learn to move your consciousness into something else, you can experience directly the energy signature of that other thing, because you have become one with it. And you will take on a part of its pattern temporarily, so you can experience cognition of what it is. If we want to find a portion of our original heritage, our original avatar selves, we need to get in touch with the seed of the diamond sun. But before we do that, it helps to get in touch with the body, because most people in our society are holding their fields in a way, their biofields in a way that they desensitize the bodies, because it would be very painful to experience the chaotic vibration that is running around in our cities and in most people's fields. So we just desensitize ourselves to it. If we learn to look at ourselves in a way where we realize that our body is a part of our consciousness, not just a shell we walk around in, this is a beginning in becoming self-sensitized and becoming more aware of who we are as a self. And if you want to become more aware of other people and more aware of how to raise the consciousness of the planet higher, it starts with you. It starts with the self. There's a little, I remember this exercise. I'm remembering here, so I'm giggling to myself. I remember the first time I tried this, when one of the guardians that I work with had told me to do something that sounded absolutely ridiculous to me. He said, "I want you to talk to your knee." I said, "What?" It sounds the stupidest thing I've ever heard. What are you talking about? And said to me, "Every part of your body is a station of consciousness, and every part of your body holds a piece of cellular memory that belongs to you. You may find your Atlantean lifetime lodged in your Achilles heel. You may find your memories from your 3rd birthday party in this lifetime stuck behind your ear. The body holds parts of your consciousness and parts of your cellular memory. That's why when there's areas of the body that are malfunctioning, it's part of the consciousness that's malfunctioning. There's something disharmonic there. So we need to begin really experiencing ourselves as energy bodies and stop getting brainwashed. It's brainwashing. Our culture brainwashes us into looking at ourselves as, this is me, and I have a consciousness and probably a spirit somewhere. They've got it all wrong. And it's really done in a way to keep us disempowered. No, consciousness is what you are, spirit is what you are, and this is a manifestation of that. This is a part of you, and you have to reclaim it if you want to start healing. The first relationship you heal is the one with yourself. Okay? So we're going to start getting in touch with ourselves for a little bit, and this is done. This is an exercise that's best done at home, alone, where there's nobody to bug you. Unplug your phone or whatever and have a nice peaceful environment. I'd suggest at first not putting on any music or anything. They'll distract you, and turn off the lights. Because we're so used to not hearing our body consciousness speak to us that any kind of distraction can drown us out. So you might not get a lot of effect out of this here, because you still have other bodies next to you, and you still have light in the back. Sensory deprivation is a good place to try this in. As little sound, as little light, as little sensual distraction as possible. It's also best if you lay down, if you can lay horizontally on your back, which I don't think there's room for us all to lay down on the floor, so I won't ask you to do that. But imagine yourself anyway, at home, laying on your bed, totally peaceful, no distractions. First thing, and you can do it while you're sitting here too, is take that little dot of your consciousness that we had you put into the object and expand it into a ball that your body can fit inside of. And put that ball around your body as if you're standing inside of a sphere of light that is your consciousness. Now move that ball of energy a sphere of energy that's around you. You're sitting in one place. Move that energy through you from front to back and let it go out the back as if that ball just passed through you. That ball of energy that you just sent through you is a part of your consciousness that just picked up a scan, an energy imprint of what it passed through your body. You can scan anything this way. You can use a flat plane of energy and just run it through what you're trying to understand, what object you're trying to sense, what person you're trying to understand. With your body, you can run that ball of awareness through the body. It picks up an imprint, and then bring that back into the center point in the middle of your pineal gland, condense it back up into a little tiny spark of light. So you just got a sensory read on an object, which is your body, which is a form of consciousness like any other object. Now, with that read, I want you to take the object to the first part of your body that comes to mind. Don't think about it. Just first thing, body, part. What is it? Put that dot there. That's allowing your higher self to take that read that you just took and tell you where you need to put your attention right now. It'll change every time you do it. Find the body part that you get a feel or a voice in your head saying, put it in my knee. Put it there. Station that little dot of your consciousness down there. And now imagine yourself inside the sphere of energy again, but this time you're tiny, 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 tiny. And you're right down there as a little microscopic self. You can picture a little tiny body of you way down inside the sphere of light, inside that body part. Now you're a little you inside your body. Stay down there for a minute till you get the feeling. It's almost like an Alice in Wonderland feeling. You get a sense of, I'm big here and I'm little tiny down here and everything feels big around me. You can feel a size difference when you get into this energy space. From that energy space, once you can start to feel the bigness of your body consciousness and the smallness of this little part of your consciousness that you created, then you're going to request from your body consciousness, please release the memory you hold here. I'm ready to know. Release the memory here. Some people get it in running movies. That's what happened with me. As soon as I started talking to my knee, I was amazed because my sixth chakra just blew right open and I had incarnational, little snapshots of incarnations flashing through really fast, and I could slow them down, mentally command them to slow down, and they would, and I could look at them and I would immediately remember being in that life. Every part of your body holds a part of your record. If you want to find out more of who you are and become sensitized to yourself, take yourself on a vacation and go nowhere and lock yourself in a room where nobody can bother you and spend some quality time with the most important person in your life, which should be you. Everybody else is important too, but without you, you have nothing here. So you should be the most important thing to fix, to heal, to harmonize, to love. First, it's not selfish. For once you can value and cherish you, you will be able to value and cherish the yous in everybody else too. For homework, if you want to really expand your sensory capabilities, which activates more DNA, by the way. The more you do it, the faster your DNA activates, the higher strand content you will get. Go home with that concept of the little you, taking a little dot of energy, running field scan this way through the big ball of energy, condensing it down, putting it back in your head, then putting that in the first body part that comes to mind. And letting it tell its story. Say, release the cellular memory here. I'm ready to know. There'd be a reason why some part of your consciousness directed you to that body part in the first place. Another way you can use this to find out more about you, and this is very practical and healing, if you want to heal yourself, you can say, okay, this hurts, whatever it is. If something hurts, there's a disharmonic pattern there, and it may be something you know, a medical condition that was defined or something. Fine, let the doctor labels be on it, but let's go to find out what it's really about, because those labels are just things that describe symptoms. They're not the causes. Go to a part that hurts. Put yourself in that little sphere of energy, it's a little tiny microscopic you. Go into the hurt, the part that hurts, which usually is held like this. You'll find the energy. It's as if the energy in that area is really just holding itself very tightly. The body is doing that so it doesn't have to feel that hurt. It's almost like trying to contain it so it doesn't spread. That needs to relax for the hurt to heal. First you have to get through the resistance to healing, which is the body trying to shelter itself from feeling more of the hurt. With your little self, your little spark of energy, put into the hurt area. Simply breathe for a few minutes. Because at first you won't feel anything, because there's that defense mechanism that does not want you to feel that hurt. And it's a defense mechanism you put up there yourself on a different level, on an unconscious level. Breathe in that space and imagine the hurt area as having color. And let the color just come to you. It may come to you in words, this is red, or it may come to you in images of color swirling, or it may come to you in pulses of color that push on you and make you feel uncomfortable. These are energy qualities of the disharmonic energy in the hurt area. Once you can begin to feel that, which will take a little bit of time sometimes to get past that resistance to knowing, you can put yourself in your little sphere of light, and you're still protected in there. The hurt's not going to get you. This is a place where you can observe the hurt, and you can begin to heal it without being consumed by it. And you simply talk to that hurt. You talk to your body as if it were a thing you respected, but not a thing, a person. It is a part of your personhood. It is consciousness. Our bodies are composed of the same thing everything else in the universe is composed of, and that is consciousness. When we begin to realize we're walking around in something that's like our best friend here, a friend that we don't even realize we have, something we abuse and misuse and push and make it work too hard and all these kind of things, this has a whole consciousness all its own, and it will talk to you if you let it. You can go into the hurt area and say, okay, we're a team here. This part of my consciousness and the part of my consciousness that you are working together. And the body will feel sometimes as separate from you as you feel from the body. You may find it having its own little voice and it'll telepathically talk to you like, who are you? You know, it's like, you know, I'm the mental part of this machine. Oh, okay. You know, well, I'm the cellular consciousness. You know, you may get it in word translation if you're wired for that. You can directly talk to your body consciousness. But even if you don't get it in words, you can go in there and say, transmit the feeling, not just say the words, but transmit the feeling. I want to bring harmony back to this area, and I want to understand the core of this. I want to understand what caused this so I can uncause it. If you want to de-manifest the disharmony, you go back to its point of origin, its original cause, and that may be billions of years ago. Doesn't matter. You could spend like 6 lifetimes analyzing the movie films from your last 5. Just find the core of the vibration that created the disharmony using that little self technique. Breathe in there and breathe in the feeling. You'll start to get a knowing. You may get emotional knowing first, or just a sense of energy around this. Breathe more into the energy and expand into the energy. You'll begin to get information. And if you learn, as you get information, to ask the right questions, you will get the answers you need. If you get in that energy space and you're beginning to start to feel the reality of your body consciousness as a real consciousness, start to feel it. Ask the right questions and it will answer you. What is causing this now? Because there will always be a reflection of the original cause happening now that's recreating it in this life. It will give you advice. Your own body consciousness can help you to learn how to heal yourself. It can tell you. It can tell you in direct impression, or even if it tells you nothing when you first connect with it, you may find yourself shifting behaviors like that. Consciousness. When you're using these other sensory abilities that we're taught not to use in our society, you are moving into a realm of power, having more power to do things that you won't get by using the traditional belief systems. Once we begin a little more sensitized to ourselves, we begin to realize, when you hit the body consciousness, you start to realize, wow, this is a whole level of me that I never even acknowledged before. It's a whole level of me that I really just used, abused, and didn't even think about, because I didn't realize it was anything more than a shell. I didn't realize it was a conscious, living, breathing being that's actually a part of my consciousness. You start to establish a rapport with your body, and you can talk to it, and you can say, okay, body, I want to stop desensitizing myself, at least in the appropriate settings. I want to be able to experience more of the wholeness of reality and the wholeness of other people. I want to be able to heal my relationships and to bring higher consciousness into the art of relationship. Your own body consciousness, your evil twin. As a sack of potatoes you can walk all over and then trash at the end of a lifetime and expect to get all the way into ascension, because it won't happen. You have to eventually bring the part of your consciousness that's making the body up. That's made of units of your consciousness. Eventually they have to come up too if you're going to go through ascension. So your body is very important, and you need to make friends with it. And it doesn't matter if it's short, tall, fat, skinny, ugly, beautiful. These are illusions we have been taught to value. We have been taught to put these images, these fake interpretations, these outside illusions up as our saviors, our gods, our important things, to the point where we see only the outside and we forgot the whole inside that was the real part to begin with. If you want to start sensitizing and start getting your relationship with yourself more whole, more full, spend time using your mind in a new way by literally reserving appointments that you'll discipline yourself not to break, just like you wouldn't break an appointment with somebody else. This is a somebody, this body of yours. And if you want to learn things about what you need to do next personally, better than any doctor alone can do, your body has that information. If you will take the time and you have the ability to realize, you can just move your consciousness into it and say, talk to me. Let me know what I need to do. You will get more sensitive to the answers coming the more you do it. If you do it for a week and you still don't get your body giving you any signals that it's really alive in there, you just are very, very desensitized. Eventually, with practice, you will begin to feel that reality, and you will start to open up a whole new level of your consciousness, your body consciousness. You combine the body consciousness with the spiritual consciousness, with the higher parts of self, and you begin to heal the whole being. So that's one little exercise that you can take home, is going to the different body parts, letting them run their movies if it's information you want, or asking them, what do I do next for healing in this area? Every time you do any type of energy work like that, you're increasing your ability to do more. You're sensitizing more and more and more of your neurological structure. So it's worth doing. Okay, now I want to go back into experiential because that's what I want to focus on tonight. People that know me know I can talk like for 8 hours and never shut up. So I'm going to take you into another exercise. This time, we got to know a little bit about how to move our consciousness into our body part and feel around in there. This time, we're going to take the same energy sensing abilities. We used our palms before. We use the ability to simply move our consciousness into something and get a feel for that energy. We're going to use this between two people now. So what I'd like you to do is preferably with somebody you don't know. Now if you're here with somebody, choose somebody else. Okay, break up into partners. It's probably easiest if it's the one next to you. And if you can, kind of quickly just turn your chairs where your knees to knee to knee. I think there's enough room to do that. And if not, you can like spread out a little because there's some seats in the back still left. Yeah, we'll do the knee-to-knee thing. And learn to think for yourself. You don't need an Anna Hayes tape. You don't need a guru from someplace to tell you what to do. You can move your energy into the space of that child and ask that child's higher consciousness, how can I be of assistance here now? And you can get a direct feel back, but you're not going to get those kind of guidance instructions if you're not sensitized to receiving the answers. So while we're doing the exercises, keep the most part of yourself focused here. But keep the little mentor out here, just observing what is being done. So you get an idea of how these energy mechanics work, where you could get somebody, say if you have a group of people that likes to come over and visit with you, say, let's try this knee thing. I just learned how to do this, right? Sit knee to knee with me, you know, where you can remember enough of this. Get them to start feeling it, too. You know, you can talk until you turn blue trying to convince people about metaphysics. What usually turns people to metaphysics? is they experience something that could not be explained otherwise. So you can help people experience the reality of subtle body energies by just paying attention enough while we're doing these, thinking, gee, who could I do this with at home? You know? Yeah. I want you to be able to do both perspectives. You are learning to just experience right now, but I want you to learn how to create experiences for others by observing enough of what's being done that you can take another person and walk them through something like I'm walking you through. And I'm doing this spontaneous. And tonight there's a reason for that. I want you to learn to trust your spontaneous self. You are a spirit. You are a spirit that has an ascended master level to you. You're just not used to bringing it in. Learn to trust and learn to simply ask the right questions. Okay, I'm in this situation now. All right, master level self and spirit of the other being I'm trying to harmonize with here. What should I do now? And you have to learn to trust the first thing that comes through. You'll get to the point where you can just let it roll. And you know whatever is the right thing for the moment will come through. So in this exercise, we're going to get to know, just like we sensed that object in a different way. We used our minds in a way we're not taught to in school. We used our minds to sense the reality, or part of the reality of an object, in a way that we're not usually tuned to sensing. We consciously made the decision to, instead of looking at this object and saying it's this big, it weighs this much, we turned that off and went into it's this, and experiencing the energy feel of it. The next challenge is to begin doing it just a little bit at first with other people. Because if you do it a lot at first, you get really scared, because there's a level of personal revelation that comes. Now, you know, if you put your energy into a pencil, the consciousness of the pencil really doesn't feel violated. It doesn't really mind that you're experiencing its pencilness. But but people are much more protective because of the way this society is, and everybody runs around judging each other and pointing fingers at each other and condemning each other. We're very defensive by nature right now, and we need to learn to heal that in ourselves if we're going to learn to become a force of healing here on the planet. As long as we're running around with the same disease, we're not going to heal anybody. Healers heal thyself. And life is really an experience of healing. That's what we're all here on this planet for. If we were all perfectly healed beings, we wouldn't be on Earth. We'd be in one of the higher harmonics, in nicer places. We're all here to heal and to help the planet heal and to help each other heal. Now, in this exercise, there's a lot of things you can do once you begin linking the fields. Right now, you have a current of energy that runs on horizontal planes through the in-body chakras when you sit across from each other, particularly if you're knee to knee. If you can, you know, be knee to knee. The knees don't have to touch, but knee to knee is the best because it horizontally aligns the chakras, which allows energy to move more clearly between the two of you. When you were working with someone in this capacity, you might want to remember again that you had a Maharic seal, that pillar of light that you brought up. You might want to breathe a few more puffs of energy into it until you can see it strong or imagine it strongly in your field, because that'll make you feel safer. It's not that the person that you're going to do this with is dangerous. The most part is that there's a part of you that will resist being known. And first you can make it feel safe by letting it know it's strongly wrapped in its own Maharic seal. So there's nothing that's going to come into you that's not good for you to be there, and there's nothing that's going to go out from you that you don't want put out. There are ways with even people that are good at playing astral perception games. There are certain government organizations that actually train people in remote viewing, and they train them in how to put their minds in other people's minds for like mind control and to read their thoughts and stuff. All you do with that is simply put up a screen like a scramble pattern and push it out. So before we do this get to know each other exercise, if there's anything that is just your personal stuff that, you know, you don't know this other person too well, so you don't need to share that. You know, that's for later if we ever get to know each other well. Imagine the image that you see sometimes on TV where they block out a face by scrambling just the picture, the part of the picture that the face is on, so it remains anonymous. Well, the portions of yourself that right now you want to remain anonymous, that's too personal, I want you to just put up a scramble pattern wall and move them off to the left and to the back, and just hang them out in your outer field, right about out here. You even put them as far as about a yard out. What you're doing is stationing that information out in the level of your auric field that corresponds to one of your higher identity levels. You're putting it out into like the avatar level of identity, out in the outer field. So it's not here to scan anymore. And unless somebody is going to be able to move their field into yours at D13 frequency, they're not going to find it. So you don't have to worry about revealing too much. This may be a new thing for a lot of people, to actually experience a place where you can get to know another person but not have to think about being defensive or how much will I reveal. You're allowing your energy fields right now. You're positioning them in a way to remove that worry and that concern so you can start to get to know the other person. I want you to look into each other's eyes for a minute and just look. Don't think about them. You'll find yourself maybe noticing the shape of them or noticing that right down below the eyes that you can see almost out of the whites of your eyes, you can see their smile. Your eyes do weird things when you actually focus into somebody's eyes. They try to focus somewhere else for a while. Looking into someone else's eyes, especially someone you don't know, can feel very threatening at first. Then it can feel weird, where you find a part of yourself actually feeling like, okay, my face and my eyes are still here, but I actually just stepped back about 3 paces, and I'm sitting behind here watching this happening. Some people go into a state of disassociation because the intimacy is threatening. These are things you need to notice in yourself if you want to be able to experience other people without losing yourself, but experience the goodness in other people. You're going to need to get beyond your own defense patterns and how they posture in your fields. So if you feel, as you're looking into each other's eyes, if you feel a part of you that starts to drift out the back of your head and sits a few paces behind, or moves over to the side, or decides to think about what it's going to have to eat when we go to the restaurant later this evening, these are distraction tactics that one part of yourself is playing with another part of yourself to avoid knowing another being. I emphasize this because I want you to become aware that these are barriers you need to move through if you're going to get to truth. It's okay to look into each other's eyes and simply realize you are gazing into the energy field of another soul. Forget the body in front of you. Just focus on just the eyes, because the eyes transmit the frequencies of the soul. Particularly in a darkened room, if you do this long enough, you'll notice a couple sensations start to happen if you don't drop the focus. Usually first you'll notice the eyes start to burn a little, particularly if you keep them open. If you try to keep them open as long as possible, they'll start to burn a little. They're burning, yes, because they've been exposed to the air too long, but also they're beginning to burn because they're not used to getting that much direct frequency transmitted at them from somebody else's soul. They're beginning to pick up higher frequency, and the cellular structure of the eyes is not used to that frequency. There's a point you can get to if you have enough tenacity to say, I want to see what's beyond this point. If you can keep the eyes open, still receiving that frequency without breaking the current of energy going between the eyes, you will start to get blank spots appearing in the vision. Little blobs of just blackness happen, as if a black hole just came over half the person's face or over their chin or on their shoulder. You will notice blank spots. And what these are you're beginning to perceive higher frequency. You're beginning to perceive the flashing on and off spots, because we are scalar grids. Our bodies are composed of scalar grids. They are composed of units, stationary units of consciousness that flash on and off in different rhythms, like marquees. When you begin to allow your eyes to pull in more frequency from the eyes of another and to transmit at the same time, you will begin to accelerate dormant aspects of the pineal gland, which will allow you to begin to use the vision, physical vision, in a different way. And the first effects you will get will be blank spots, where you're starting to see the black spots between moments. You're seeing faster than time is moving. So you're seeing the blank spots where time isn't filled out yet. But you will also get eye burning. And the reason why it may be worth going through a little bit of the eye burning, not to the point where you damage your eyes, but keeping those eyes open enough. And even if they start to tear, remember when I first was taught how to do this, I had tears running down my face, and so did the other girl. But it was worth it. Because after a certain level of frequency built up, those blank spots got bigger and bigger till the whole face disappeared. And that was neat because it looked like a black hole just ate up their whole face. And first you're thinking, something wrong with my vision. It's actually, I must have my eyes open too long. They're not working. You think it's like a vision problem. It's not. If you get past that eye burning and getting to the point where the black spot kind of expands to swallow the face, the stage after that is beginning to see other faces. You will start to see the incarnational lives flash in and out, in and out. And you will begin to find where you knew each other before. Because no matter how many beings are on this planet right now, we all know each other from somewhere. We were all created out of the same source of consciousness. We are all part of the same one consciousness. So somewhere we all knew each other. If you look through the spaces between moments and start to see faster than time here is moving, you will begin to see in each other other places. And as you see the face flashing of the other self that person was, it will stimulate, it sent a frequency out from that space-time place into your bioenergetic field that will stimulate the activation of the memory of who you were, because you won't see anybody flash in their faces that you didn't know. So if you see a face coming to you, like an overlay or a black spot, flashes, and then you have a face coming out, you're actually seeing someone that someone of you, one of your incarnations, knew before. Or you wouldn't be seeing that face in that person. So by looking at someone else, sometimes you can find things about yourself as well. That's one of the little things you can do. And that's really one of the kind of fun things that distracts the mind enough to forget the fact that it doesn't want to be intimate with anybody. And you can learn a lot about yourself incarnationally about that. But that's not why I had to do this. The reason I want you to do this is because I want you to start experiencing the reality of another person as a soul energy, as an energy field. You can close your eyes now if they're burning. You don't have to stand there and stare at each other to the point where your eyes are falling out. Okay, we picked up some frequency from each other through the eyes, eye transmissions of the soul. Now I want you to close your eyes, and your eyes will be like cheering, saying, yes, thank you. Close your eyes for a couple minutes. And I want you to begin to try to sense the person's energy, just like you sensed the energy of the object. You can do this with each other. It's best if you take turns. And when you're working with people, it is best to ask permission first. You can do it verbally or telepathically. But say to the other person, okay, I would like to experience more of knowing you as a soul, without judgment, without condemnation, without motive, other than to simply know the Godhood that expresses through you. You are a gift to me, I am a gift to you. Let us simply know the reality of the gift that each of us represent. If you go in with that attitude, it is a frequency that you're sending. So you can say words, but if you're going to go get close to somebody else, even if you're standing next to somebody and trying to get them to do something, they know, they sense what's beneath the words. And if the words and the real intention are not congruent, they don't go with each other, it will be the energy signature that they react to, not the words. So you go with the idea and the words. I would like to enter your space and know you in a way that you are comfortable with and intend no violation whatsoever, just simply to know. And if you come from the heart with that, they will feel the frequency and you will get less field resistance. We're going to play receiver and transmitter, and it doesn't matter which one of you is which, but just take turns. You'll decide amongst yourself who's going to be the first transmitter, because you'll both get to do this. So pick who's going to transmit first. Yeah, it's not a major issue because, in 5 minutes the other one's going to do it, so no big deal. Okay. See, one person's going to be moving energy from them toward the other person to get to know the other person. The other person's going to be receiving that energy and saying, okay, I'll let you experience me a little bit. Okay, so transmitter is the person that's going to go on the little voyage into experiencing the other. And the receiver is the one that's going to sit there and allow the voyager to come and experience them. Okay, and we're going to flip roles so nobody, you know, it's fair. We both get to experience both sides.
Are you doing this in the light?
Hmm?
Are you transmitting the light from the pineal? Or?
Not yet. Okay. Yeah, I'm just asking you
Just
to...
intention.
Yeah, for now. It's just intention. That you're going in, you simply... I guess... And sometimes I just kind of like do this, and I'm so used to doing it that I don't explain the process that I use. When I'm sending intention, I automatically go into, because I've just done it so long, I go into, it comes out of the heart center, it comes out of the pineal center, it also comes out of the higher chakras, okay, like the 14th chakra, the 11th, the 10th. And I tend to transmit through all of the chakras the intention that, may I enter your field, may I have permission for this, I come, you know, with good intention and simply to know you as a fellow expression of God with no agenda whatsoever towards you. I tend to transmit that through every one of my chakras, and that way it goes into every one of my body levels, my auric field levels, but it also, those levels, my emotional body talks to your emotional body, my mental body to your mental body, my physical body to your physical body. All right? So if you, that was a good point. This person brought up the fact, am I transmitting that just as a thought intention or from the pineal or, you know, from a specific place? You can just say, this is my intention, and kind of hail the whole field of the other person, which is a fast way to do it. Or you can just, you know, feel that frequency transmitting through each of the chakras to each of the levels of the other person. I transmit to you goodwill and kindness and a simple desire to share. It will be felt. You may, if you really try this, even this, I wasn't going to put this in here, but that's a good thing to do, so I will elaborate on that. Focus for a minute on the chakras. And you know, if you don't have the placements, as we, you know, some people that weren't in the workshops may not have them, they're just energy centers on the body that you can look at as little discs, and the people that have been in the workshops know where they are. Just imagine some currents of energy moving between you and the person sitting across from you on a horizontal plane, like currents of energy, just like you had between your palms. Well, now this is between you and the other person, just like you had between your palms. Most people don't, especially with strangers, sit in a position like this because it opens the fields more to each other. But remember, you still have your pillar up, so nothing's getting out there that you don't want out. Now that you've transmitted intention of goodwill and asked for permission, and the other person's still sitting there and letting you do it, which says permission has been granted, I want the receiver person to simply focus their mind on one thought and use it as a mental mantra, because it will help distract you from worrying about, oh my God, they're going to find something out about me. Because this is what your mind is going to do, because it's programmed to do that, and eventually you'll override that. Simply focus, receivers. Simply focus on the thought, I trust God, or my higher spirit, whatever you want to call that higher power, higher parts of yourself. I trust and I allow. I trust and I allow. I trust and I allow. Keep saying it mentally over and over and over to yourself. Don't let any other thoughts in. And yes, it's boring. It's supposed to be boring. This is why mantras are given over and over and over and over. It starts to break up the usual thought patterning and how it's used. It gets you into different spaces so your spirit level, your soul level can start to come through. So just use, I will allow. I trust I trust God, I will allow. I trust, I will allow. You can even just use I trust if you don't want to attach any particular power source to that. I trust, I allow. I trust, I allow. I trust, I allow. I trust, I allow. And receivers also, just bring your energy up as if it's not really focused too much in the body. It's just focused in that thought pattern in the center of your brain. I trust and allow. This way, you're not going to be using any of your energy to posture your fields to push the other person's energy away when they try to come at you. So pull yourself just up into your head for a moment. You'll get a chance to feel them and come back down to your heart. But for now, just get yourself out of the way. I trust and allow. I trust and allow. Receivers. Now, transmitters. I want you to first visualize yourself again in the little sphere of energy inside your head, little spark of energy, a little you sitting in there. You can see yourself sitting in there in a lotus position, if you like, with long white robes, knowing you're just perfectly angelic in intention and you're a perfectly trustable being. So of course this person will allow. Imagine yourself as your Christed self, whatever you might visualize that as being, the highest possible manifest version of what you are. See yourself sitting up there, in the middle of your head, in the center of the spark of light. Now breathe in, and on the exhale, move the spark of light down from the pineal down to the center of the heart chakra. The heart chakra, which is right in the breast area, for those who might not know, right about there, that is connected to the fourth dimensional frequencies. It's the fourth chakra. Fourth dimensional frequencies are connected to the astral body and the astral plane. When you center your focus of your consciousness in the fourth chakra, you are focusing it in the astral realm. And when you transmit from there, you will be taking an astral version of yourself, an energy field, moved through your astral level, fourth dimensional level, into the fourth dimensional level of the other person's field. And as long as you have permission, this is not a violation. So simply imagine now that you have your spark of light down at the center of your heart chakra. You're going to inhale, and you're going to use the exhale breath to push that little spark of light, like a little space bubble that you can go on voyages with. You're going to push it out on a horizontal line from the heart chakra to their heart chakra. And meanwhile, the receivers are going to be saying, I trust, I allow, I trust, I allow. So they're not going to put shields all up over their heart chakras. Because in this situation, you can trust and you can allow without bringing harm to yourself. You already have your pillar up. It's not going to let anything in that would hurt you. Transmitters, keep breathing some of your essence in the form of that little spark of light, little bubble with a little you in it. Gently on the exhale, travel it closer to the heart chakra of the other person. Somewhere in that heart chakra, it will look like, of the other person, it will look like a light at the end of the tunnel. There will be a little spark of shiny light there. That's one of the seed seals in the heart chakra. So aim for that with your little spark of light that you're traveling in. And go to the seed seal, the core of their astral identity. And just simply breathe there for a couple of minutes. And then every exhale, gently expand your bubble out a little to get a feel of the energy signature. Try to imagine yourself as your consciousness is stationed in the heart chakra of the other person. And simply begin to experience anything from temperature variation to feelings of weight or fastness or slowness of energy to emotional qualities. Try to experience the reality of the frequencies in the other person's heart chakra. And while the transmitters are trying to experience the reality of being in someone else's astral field, I'd like the receivers to move your attention down now, out of your head a bit, and down into your heart chakra. And try to feel what it feels like to be felt by someone else. Try to feel yourself being felt. And as you feel yourself, receivers being felt, and transmitters are trying to feel you, imagine that the focus of attention, there's a line of energy that represents the one transmitting and the one receiving. Imagine that they come together, forming a tube of energy, just like the one in the palm of your hands. Form a conduit of energy between each other. And simply allow your consciousness to expand. Try to feel the reality of the person sitting across from you, both of you. Every person will have a distinct energy signature. Distinct and different. Every chakra in their body will have a distinct energy signature. And all of those parts go with the whole person. You begin to notice the difference with this when you switch partners And it's hard with the chairs the way they are in here. That's not much room to switch, so I'm not going to make you do that right now. When you move your consciousness into the other person, you will begin to pick up an energy signature of who that person is, their energy identity. That tells you more about who they are than what you see with your eyes before you. You can learn to really, really tune up your inner radar by doing these kind of exercises more. Do them with animals, do them with plants, do them with rocks, do them with crystals, do them with your knee. The more you get used to putting your consciousness in another focus to experience the reality that's happening from that focus, the more you learn about whatever it is you're trying to learn about, and the more flexible your own receptors become, so it's worth it. Now, you can try reversing what we did as far as the person who was the transmitter. Now, become the receiver and simply distract yourself with I trust, I allow, I trust, I allow. And the person that was the receiver, for a moment, create your little bubble of white energy and see yourself sitting in there, and move it down from the pineal to the heart chakra and out on a horizontal line to the other person's heart chakra. And if you want the short version of it, which you can use once you've built in your own mechanism, the energy circuit. See, when you visualize yourself at the pineal and then in the little white dot going down to the heart and then going out on a vertical line, you're setting a pattern. And if you do that for a while, then you can use the shorthand version, where you simply imagine yourself in that little ball and pop it into somebody's heart chakra. But you never do that without asking permission. And if you're going to do energy work with somebody, unless it's a crisis situation and your own higher guidance has asked you to intervene, you don't do energy work on people without getting approval. And sometimes you must go to their soul to get that approval. Try to feel. The one who was the receiver now, try to transmit, and the one who is receiving now that transmitted before, try to feel the difference from what you did when you were moving your energy forward to now you're feeling energy moving forward towards you. Different feeling. These are all the subtleties you need to become aware of observing as you get more talented in using the higher technologies of energy, scalar mechanics. And for a moment, before touching, experience as much as you can the reality of each other as energy. And send a little telepathic from the mind but also from the heart. I salute the God in you. I salute the consciousness of the one that you are created of and that I am created of. Because before we pull out of the pair, of the doing this in pairs, I'd like to get you into a space of rapport between your energy selves, where you can do a visualization. A receiver and transmitter one, again, doesn't matter who's who. But we're going to create something called the inner space, or the inner sanctuary. You're still sitting together. And now pull back your energy into your own fields. Transmitter, stop transmitting and bring yourself back home. And I want both people in the pair to simply relax a little and breathe. Nobody's trying to investigate you now. And nobody's feeling you. You're just you. Now I want you, each of you, to visualize for a moment a very, very sacred space that you feel peaceful and sheltered and protected. It may be a space that exists on the planet. It may be a space that you've seen in a dream. Or it may be a space that you simply imagine. You like beaches? I'll put a beach there. You like trees? I'll put some trees. Create a visualization, each one of you personally, of the most sacred, wonderful, beautiful, perfect space that you could be alone in to experience the wonder of you. A place where there's no distraction, No violation. If you're out in nature, there's no bugs there. Yeah. The perfect, idyllic paradise. Whatever version of that would be yours. And it will be different for everyone. But all the little distracting things, that if you were, say, out by a beautiful stream here, if you were out by a beautiful stream in 3D, you would be worrying about what's going to bite you if you're sitting on the grass, because there are things that do that here. This is your little sanctuary. You're a creator, created in the image of creator. So you're going to create a space that is most sacred and holy just how you want it. This is all yours. And some people, when confronted with, wow, I can have it exactly as I want it. Nobody else, I don't have to bargain this. I don't have to say, well, you know, or figure out how much it costs. Or this is, I can just create this space. As a perfect expression of me, will find themselves drawing a blank where I don't know what to create. If you get to a point where you don't see anything and you can't find a space that looks like anything, that's okay too, because it doesn't have to be a space that has rivers and streams or parks or, you know, beautiful buildings. It can be beautiful buildings or ancient rooms, but it can also be simply a color, a field of color, or a sphere of colored energy, or a texture of energy that doesn't even have any sound or light attached. That's the hardest to find. Usually, you can start finding those energy spaces by using visualizations to get you there. So think of a thing or one place that is most special to you, makes you feel good, and put that as the center of this sanctuary you're creating. And just let the space be from there. If it becomes very cluttered and big and has lots of stuff to it, great. If it's just a sphere of white energy with that one sacred object that makes you feel good in it, that's okay too. What we're going to do is, first of all, get used to being in this space. Wherever you are, you can take this space with you. You are a part of this earth. You exist on this earth. But the way our societies are set up, it's as if some of us aren't welcome here. Like, we don't belong here. You know, you don't have money, you don't have this and that, you don't have a house, you don't have a place to put your bottom. And that's not universal law. Universal law means we're all here implies we all belong here. We should be treating each other well. It doesn't matter if you were a homeless person or if you own 20 mansions. Every person here belongs. They fit. They're part of the soul of the earth. In creating your inner space here, what you're creating is the space that you want, that you are claiming as your space within the soul of the earth. And the earth will help you manifest this, by the way. There are manifestation techniques that, in working with love energy, you can more rapidly create the physical expression of those spaces, but you have to start inside. So find this inner space of yours, your sanctuary space. Feel its reality for a minute or two. Just breathe in there. And just try to get lost in it. Feel it emotionally. If you're an outdoor scene, feel the texture of the grass beneath you. Feel it and make it as real as possible. Put most of your consciousness into that space. And disassociate a little bit from your body. Try to feel the emotional reality of, wow, what a great space. Each one of you. Perfect, perfect space. There is a space like this for every one of us, by the way. It just may take us a while to find it. And it may change daily as far as its visuals. It's an energy. Once you're in there, then we're going to begin a communication skill that's going to become vital in the days and years to come. And it's vital already. Learning to communicate on higher dimensional frequencies. Because sometimes personalities with all their stuff and the things they worry about are very hard to communicate with. Sometimes we ourselves are very hard to communicate with. But there's a level of the self of everyone that is willing to establish harmony and to communicate openly. We can learn to find that space. But first you have to find it in yourself. So you find your sanctuary space. Now this is your little castle. You know, this is you're the king in this space. You decide what stays, what goes, what comes. You decide what temperature it'll be, what you'll look like in that space. And now, as we each have an image of what this space, or at least a feel of what this space may be, we're going to make a decision to let the other person that we're sitting across from visit. But it's going to be done very carefully, because we just created this safe little space that's really wonderful, and now that it's my space, it's mine, and nobody can tell me what to do in my space, so I don't really want to let anybody in here at all, because I like it this way. You'll find that in there. You'll find a resistance to wanting anybody in your space. But you'll also find that when you invite people into your space, into your sacred space, momentarily, you can resolve conflicts like you've never seen before. Now to do this, you find your space first, and you can make it look like it has a reception area. Even if you're not dealing with visualizations, pretend there's a reception area that's beautiful and relaxing and comfortable. And then anybody that wants to come near your space, or come near you, anybody that wants to get near your energy as you, has to come through intake. They have to meet you at the desk out front, so nobody can come through the door without you walking them through. Now I want you to again try this as a receiver and transmitter. Transmitter will be the person coming to visit the other person's space. And we're going to do this with visualization. And if you can't visualize clearly yet, just imagine that you are anyway. Draw from memory whatever images you could need. And you don't have to see it behind your eyes to have it work. This is a technique that you can solve many problems with when you learn how to use it well. And you don't need the other person sitting across from you to do it. Now, you're going to receive a guest in your space, receivers. If you're willing. If you're not, that's okay. If you're not willing, you would meet the person out at the front desk and just say to them, I'm not quite ready. And that's okay. And they'll say, that's okay, I understand. Because there's no wrongs here. Nobody, no right, no wrongs, no people having expectations about how another should behave. We're going to use visualizations, though. We're going to visualize you waiting to receive a guest in your space, and see yourself as you are right now. Or, since you're in your space, you can be as you'd like yourself to be. Whatever your happiest form of you would be. You can change anything you want. You can pretend you're in a beautiful castle and you have, if you're female, have a long flowing gown on and you're getting ready to receive guests. Use the quality of imagination to make these energy shifts happen in you. So see yourself coming down your stairway of your castle or whatever is your space, out to the front reception area. And now, the transmitters. Imagine yourself, you're going on a journey, a very humble one. You're going with great reverence in your heart for another fellow expression of Creator. You can look like anything you want to, too. You can put on your best apparel or no apparel at all as far as images go. You can travel as simply an energy. Or you can travel with an image, which makes it easier at first. Transmitter, imagine yourself walking across a little bridge of light that goes between the heart chakras, that energy bridge you built before. Transmitter, walk across the heart chakra. At the same time, receiver, come out. The door would be right at the heart chakra. And try to feel. Don't say anything to each other yet. See if you can get an image at all on what's coming towards you, on the energy coming towards you from the transmitter. And simply meet there and try to feel each other and greet each other. It would be the same thing as a handshake in physical. And if you want to make it more real for yourself, imagine the two of you in physical bodies there doing a handshake. And receivers, simply look at the other and say, I will trust you for this moment. Come into one of my inner rooms. It can be one of the outer ones. There's many, many rooms. It's a house of many mansions. Take him into the room you'd like to take him into, if it's in a house. Take him into the area of the woods, if it's in the woods by the stream. Or just take him into an energy bubble, if that's where you started, into a part of your space you don't mind them being in. In that space, you can both then ask for a little bit of a higher order of things to be brought in. For both of you have higher identities than even the level you're at right there. You have 15 dimensions of identity. So you can ask your Rishi selves, the part of you in dimensions 13, 14, and 15, what is the gift we give to each other in this interaction? For every single interaction between people on this planet is a gift. There is a lesson, there is a gift, and there is an energy exchange. And it is not by accident that it occurs. If you can begin to identify the gift you are in any situation, you and the other, you'll begin to diffuse conflict. Because first you realize, conflict, that means we're giving each other gifts here and I'm not seeing the gift. Okay, let me look higher. When you get in the inner space, you're more detached from the outer space, so you don't get caught up in the emotional patterns involved with it. You can learn to train your mind to go into your sacred space, and you can invite remote somebody that you're having a conflict with. If you're having a conflict with Uncle George or Cousin Sue or the neighbor down the street whose name you don't even know, you can call to mind an image of them. Send out a transmission from your heart chakra, which sends it out into the astral level. And also imagine it being sent out from a point of your pillar, your personal pillar, that connects to the sun. You're transmitting on the highest levels to reach their higher identity, not just their astral identity. Transmit the desire to create harmony and healing. You can transmit it remote, and then you can do a visualization, even alone, to come in and bring it back in. Bring them to your space and say to them, I would like to resolve this now. You can begin interacting with the astral level of other people to resolve contracts. You can begin to work with them to find out what your contracts were on the soul level. Because if you're in conflict with each other here, believe it or not, there's a level of you both who kind of chuckle a little up there because you know you set it up. You know you designed this drama down here to teach yourselves, both of you mutually, to teach yourselves some things. And it can seem very heated and real here. So when we begin to learn how to go into each other's space with permission, and when we learn how to allow others to begin touching our sacred space, we are slowly building the ability to relate to others in a sacred manner. It is worth doing. It also gives you very, very powerful tools of transformation. Funny thing is, when people think about masters, people who are, like embodied masters and that come back here to teach things and stuff, do you know that most of the masters that are the biggest masters sit someplace away from everything, hardly ever deal with people, and they simply do everything from the astral or higher levels. They communicate with people there, they teach people from the astral level, they move around, and they make things happen in their own life that they need to sustain themselves from the astral level. They do very, very little. With their physicalness, they don't need to. It's not silly mind games to learn to use the energies in this way. Learn to travel with your consciousness. Learn to make agreements with other people and those levels of their consciousness. If you have a conflict, call in the higher levels of the other person and say, please, I would like to resolve this with this person in a mutual win-win situation, and please, by the way, can you help me see the lesson in it so I don't have to create it again? If you take responsibility for the fact that no matter who's right or wrong, you're both creating the hologram, and there's a reason why both of you are doing it, take responsibility for the fact that somehow I'm creating this too to teach myself something, and hail the higher parts. This is going to be crucial if things get unstable with the planetary grids in the next 18 years. They may or they may not, depending on how the energy work goes that's here. But if you learn to communicate on the fourth and fifth dimensional frequencies by using visualization and energy sensing techniques like these, you will be able to go above the chaos and confusion that's out here. You will be able to locate other groups of people that can help each other. What I'd like to do, I'm going to take probably a 10-minute break, and they usually go to 15. That's why I say 10, so maybe by 20 everybody's back here. But what I want to do when we get back is I want to do an energy circle with you. Now there's quite a few people here. We're going to just like mash the chairs down this way and sit back in the back. We're probably going to break down into a couple of smaller groups, but we're going to do a circle. I want you to know before you leave tonight how to do a circle, an energy circle with a group of people, and how to lead that circle, where you can say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to link our fields here. What I want to do tonight is I want us to give each other a little bit of a gift, a little bit of Psychic 101 of how to begin using your energy in a group, how to do some remote work, how to project group healing energy in a direction to create much more healing result. It works in prayer circles, but it also works for many other applications. You can find missing persons, you can help people in the hospital across the country heal. You can do lots of stuff, and you can also manifest stuff faster. So we're going to do a thing when we get back. We're going to have you think of one conflict you'd like to resolve. Think about this in our break. I'll ask you all to just know, and you don't have to tell me, just keep it in your mind. One conflict you'd like to resolve. One thing in your body you'd like to heal. And one thing, physical object, that you'd like to manifest. A thing to manifest. And you're going to be mad at me in about 2 seconds, because I'm going to say, except money. You know why? The old joke goes that, yeah, the guy got really good at manifesting, and he kept saying, I want to manifest money, 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 money. He manifested billions and billions of dollars in paper, green cash, and you know what? The government didn't take that kind of money anymore. It's not the money you're looking for, it's the power behind it. If you want a house, focus on the house, not on the money to buy the house. Focus on the true energy signature of what you want. Money is a trap when it's looked at as if that is the power. You're projecting your power onto it. Your power is as a manifester. If you can learn to do this, you can find that money comes to you in ways you might never have thought. and you find yourself able to have the things progressively more and more that you want by manifesting. And they will appear to have come through the transaction of money. But money is just a symbol for your power and how you're relating to it. If you have too much money going out and not enough coming in, like most of us, you're giving out too much energy, you're too electrical, you're not magnetic enough. Comes right back to the biofield. So there's things. When we go on the break, just think of an object aside from money that you'd like, part of your body that you'd like to heal, and one conflict you'd like to resolve. And then when we come back, we're going to do the circle on the floor. If anybody has a real hard time sitting on the floor, I won't keep you there for a long time, but if anybody, like it's really hard for your body or something, you can pull the chair up, but I would prefer us to be on the floor sitting in a circle if we can. Okay, so we'll take a 10-minute break, but it'll probably end up 20. I want to teach you some basic things. One is to be able to link the group energy together, while still retaining your own seal on your fields, of course. Then creating a seal around the group, so nothing can mess with the group energies. So you're protecting individuals and the collective, because once you unite your energies together, you create another living, breathing organism in a higher dimensional form. The group becomes an entity that's composed of the individuation of each of its parts, but it becomes a sentient identity all on its own, and every group of people you're with qualifies as that. But a group that becomes an entity for the purposes of directed energy healing work are a very, very powerful force. If you can learn, at least tonight, simple techniques of getting a group of people together, sitting them down, telling them some basic things to do with their energy fields, and showing them how to focus that energy then into a center point, and I'm not going to have that be me either. It's better if it's an object. Okay, once you can focus it, take the group energy, get it harmonized together, and then bring it into a focal point, you have now at your disposal a pool a very strong energy, particularly if you have people with their fields sealed to the 12th dimensional level, which means they're running at least some subharmonics of D12 frequency, which is one of the highest frequencies that can run through the human body. You bring down the pillar to get that high frequency in. You link it to a group, bringing in the group pillar, which is the Shaddai it's called, the first cause light, pillar of first cause light. That is an extremely powerful force of energy. You're using the energy of the heavens and the higher parts of identity, of the collective, the Christos energy from dimensions 12, 11, and 10, and you're combining them with the earth grid energies, letting your system be the bioenergetic circuit that allows those things to run. And then you take that energy and focus it. And whatever you point it at, you're going to have one heck of scalar wave power behind it. All right, so if you want to work on things in your personal lives, it's worthwhile in your community to feel out and find some friends that are interested in energy work. And teach them about sealing their fields. Teach them how to protect themselves first, because if they're working energy work and they're not sealing their fields, who knows what they picked up? You know, it's the energy workers that don't know how to seal their fields that are really picking up some nasty stuff, and they're transmitting it to others because they just don't realize it happened. Teach them how to seal their fields, simple technique, you know, the Maharic seal technique. Then, simply sit them down in a group of them, say, let's play some energy work games. And what we're going to do tonight is a game, but it's a very serious game. I'd asked you before to pick 3 things that you would like to work on. And you don't have to write them down unless you need to for yourself. And I don't want to know them because it's not my business. It's between you and yourself and your higher parts. There's a conflict. Some conflict. It can be at work, at home, with children, with relatives, whatever, that you want to resolve. And make it specific. Not just general world healing. I'm tripping over words here. World healing or peace. Not just general. We want it specific here. Like my relationship with Uncle John needs help, you know? Let's heal this conflict. Take them one at a time at first. Then later you get into big things to heal. Healing is harmonizing of vibrational patterns. If you're in conflict with somebody, you are in vibrational disharmonic with them. Your consciousness and theirs are not vibrating in a harmonious pattern. You can change that, particularly when you put group energy behind it. What we're going to do tonight, I want to walk you through so you can walk other groups through, those of you who are inclined to try to perpetuate this work. You will have a benefit that every time you work with a group, so if you decide you're going to assemble a group, it's worth it because you can't do group energy work with the extra kick without a group. So that's the motivation to get a group together to do it, is saying, well, we'll all benefit from this, including me. You know, I know my energy work and I can do it myself, but I'm going to get a lot more power behind it if I'm working with a group. So it's worthwhile teaching some other people how to do this. You're helping them, they're helping you, that kind of thing. But we're going to take tonight simple conflict, a simple part of the body, whatever part you first want fixed. And again, don't just say the whole body. We all like our whole bodies fixed just like that, you know. Just transmute them into, like, you know, gorgeous angel figures if while you're at it, if we're going to fix them all like that. It doesn't work that fast. But one body part, one conflict. And one thing, and make it an object, because objects are easier at first than, and like trying to say, I want to manifest money. You'll find yourself with money you can't use. You'll find yourself with money tied up in the States. You'll find yourself with money, but you're still looking at money as the object. You got the object, but can't use it. Because what you're really looking for is the power to do or to have something. Focus on what you want to have. If it's a house you want, focus on a house. Imagine that house. The perfect house for me, whatever that may be. And you can be specific even. You know, a blue house with black shutters or whatever. Yeah. Take those 3 things. And each person, we're going to unite the field of the group. And then we're going to transmit into a central object. And I have a crystal, I believe, for this purpose. I put my purse in there. Could you get that for me, please?
Does the person have to be alive?
No.
Somebody who's already passed?
Yeah. In fact, you can use, this is one of the applications of group work. This is really awesome. You can use it for many, many things. One thing is to locate missing persons or find information on where they might be. You can put together a group specifically for that. You can put together a group specifically for if there's anybody who has relatives or whatever that passed over, that those relatives might want to communicate, and it's in the best interest of all souls involved that that happens, the group energy can make your own signal strong enough where they can possibly reach you. You can do a literal group where you can make interdimensional contact once you know how to seal your fields. If I repeat myself with that, it's because it needs to be repeated. You need to understand before you go interdimensional, hyperdimensional, you have to seal your fields or you'll have astral warfare going on and you won't even know what hit you. You know? Okay, so you can use it for a lot of things. Right now we're going to do just simply basic focusing the group energy and picking those 3 areas to direct it through. We're going to direct it through the heart chakra, which takes it into the astral field, the 4th dimensional energy field. So we're going to transmit patterns to be set into the 4th dimensional field. I'm not finding the crystal I wanted, but it doesn't really matter. It can be a person or it can be like whatever object you held. And yeah, does anybody have a crystal? Whatever's closest. Yeah, whatever's closest, because it's not that necessary. I have a bunch of them that I didn't bring with me because I didn't know we were going a little bit first. And when it's like, you know, breathe and then exhale and inhale and do this, I'll try not to have you hold your breath till you turn blue. We're going to draw energy up from the Earth's Maharic shield, from the Earth core. And once that shield is activated, which we did by activating our own pillar, brings temporarily the planetary 12th dimensional grid into active frequency transmission. We're going to put our consciousness down there, draw energy up in a silver cord, up in through our body. For those who have had Kathara healing, have taken that up into the Kathara grid in the body, but if you don't know where that is, that's okay. Just have it coming up the middle. Have it stretch out through the sun. There's a blue dot. Imagine a blue dot at the center of the sun, which is a symbolism that takes you way beyond the sun as we think of it here. It takes you into what's called the monadic imprint of your own identity, which is a level beyond ascended mastery of expansion into source that you will reach after you ascend through 15 dimensions and 3 levels of the energy matrix. You will go into the monadic, the full monadic imprint. It's like your cosmic family of consciousness. So you're going to link your energy to the earth core all the way up through you and all the way up through the blue speck at the center of the sun that symbolizes your cosmic family of consciousness. And some of us have the same one, some of us have a little bit different one depending on where we originally came out of. But that blue dot in the center of the sun imagery will symbolize linking with that. So you're linking your own Maharic seal and your own Maharic shield into that energy. You're making a closed circuit of energy between the divine and grounding it in the earth. Once we do this, we have expanded frequency running through us. What we are going to do then is put our attention at the heart chakra, chakra 4, and we're going to focus some of that energy simply by breathing. We're going to inhale energy up from the earth core, expand it into the heart chakra about 3 times till you build a ball of energy there. And then you're going to find a focus object, which would be placed at the center. Now we have a pool of little crystals and things here. And at this point I've already, whenever people put crystals and things there, you can put a shield on them, that anything that belongs to them that's in that crystal stays there and it doesn't get put into the group field. So they have been maharically sealed too, and when you get them back, they'll be no different than when you had them before. We're not clearing them for you. It's not our business to interfere with whatever's in your crystals, but we're just blocking anything from coming out of them to affect it to anybody else. But the crystals are good because they refract energy in a way. They refract scalar waves in a way that amplifies them much more than other substances will. So once we get the energy coming up into the heart chakra, we're going to do a horizontal line coming out again, but it's going to come down from the people sitting. It's going to come down in a diagonal from the people here. It's just going to come out like spokes of a wheel. There's the center of the wheel. And out of each of your heart chakras, you're going to make a spoke of energy that comes out. You're not depleting your energy fields because you already have an open conduit between the earth and your monadic imprint, which is perpetual supply. So as long as you have that opened, you're not taking your own astral energy and draining yourself. Okay? You need to remember little things like that. When you do group work, remember that if you don't want to drain your fields, you need to connect to that blue dot in the center of the sun thing, because that's going to give you open conduit of energy, and you need to ground it in the earth. Little things like that are specific energy dynamics when they translate into what's happening with the energy fields. So they're worth noting. All right, you want open energy conduit so you don't drain your fields. You will use your breath. The breath is the push-pull. That's the thrust and the energy mover. So you will draw energy from both places, up and down, meet them in the center, and begin expanding them. We'll go through this in a minute, but I just want to explain it to you first. Once we expand them, and you can start to feel some energy building around the heart center inside, then inhale and push it out through that spoke, into the center. And it could just be a point on the floor that you all imagine the center of the circle, if you're, for lack of an object or something, and you want to do it fast, if you're in a, rekeying a location. This is a tactic that's also used to recode planetary grids. All right, you can begin to recode planetary grids, house clearings, area clearings, all of this kind of thing. The first thing that needs to be done in any kind of clearing is resetting the 12th dimensional pattern. That's the Christic pattern. That's the frequency of the pre-matter substance that hasn't been distorted yet. So that's what you want to reset. And our Maharic shields are doing that. So just by having your Maharic seal open, you are running those 12 codes to begin the recoding process. So you're going to focus the energy into the center point. There's a lot of things you can do once you do that. You have a pool of energy. You can imagine it like a vessel, that center point, that's collecting energy from the group. And every time you breathe, every time every member of the group breathes, and you'll all breathe at your own rate. We're not going to worry about synchronizing the breaths of the group in the whole bit. You start with Tantra, with couples with that, and then work your way up. It takes a while to do. But simply breathe up and down at the same time, out project. It doesn't have to be labored. Just every breath you take, imagine it being pulling from top and bottom, throwing out the heart chakra on the exhale. The group, simply by breathing, feeds energy into that center point. And there can come a time when whoever's running the group will simply say, okay, it's time to draw now. The group has charged that center point of energy. It's made a sphere of energy. Each group member, because it already has what we call key codes, codes of frequency. You helped create that sphere, so you have access to it. Something that wasn't part of that group, unless it was given the specific frequencies of each member of the group, would not be able to access that energy field. So you're creating a closed circuit of energy reserve to draw energy from for the group to use. You can use it, and it's good to do it physically first. You can later use that as a group remote, where you can draw that energy remote for all sorts of purposes. Once it's time to draw back, each one of you is simply asked to think of the 3 things that you want resolution on. And you can get very specific with this as you go on, and your own higher self will guide you on how to do that. But turning complicated things into symbols is one of the fastest ways to fix them with energy. You have your conflict, your body area, and the thing you want to manifest. In your mind, put those in a triangle with 3 points. Whatever priority is whichever one's most important, put it at the top, the other 2 under it. Simply imagine it as a triangle and color it green, which is the 4th dimensional capstone color. You're going to access it on D4. Then you're going to simply, as you were before, transmitting energy in. Just take a clearing breath for a minute, and then begin to do the opposite. And send it back out on the exhale. Okay? It's not too hard to remember, and your own self really knows how to do this inside. It's just a matter of remembering. Because once upon a time, this was a natural way. The consciousness in the body just knew how to breathe for manifesting, how to breathe for healing, how to make certain energy run which ways. So if we simply just remember when we first draw the energy in and push it out to the center, and then it's time, we're giving a gift to the group, every member. And when it's time, we each get to draw back from that. And the energy, because it's run through the 12th dimensional pillars, is purified. So any of the stuff that anybody has is recoded, and it just ends up as pure dimensional frequency, where it doesn't have any personal signature on it anymore. So the energy that pools when you use the Maharic seal with this exercise, pools in that in the center, is just simply purified energy that can be used without worrying about harm of picking stuff up or anything like that. All right, so just hold in mind the symbol of those three problems because they are indigos and because science does not understand that this is a genetic issue. It's not just an orientation of consciousness, it's a genetic issue. They are mistreating them. They are putting them on Ritalin and not using the techniques that would actually help these children. So the indigo children are a neat phenomena that's just beginning to emerge into kind of common slang in the psychological modes. There are people in the psychology areas that are becoming aware that there are these special children that are emerging, that some of them are genius level, some of them are they just stand out. Some of them are very psychic, which is another part of their abilities you don't hear too much about right now in the public forum. Some of them are very telepathic. Some of them astral project by the time they're 4 and remember and come back and tell you. They have advanced psychic abilities. They have potential abilities that make things like the government very nervous, because some of them are literally pyrokinetic, which means if they get angry, they can blow up your house by accident. All right? These children are a phenomena that the more common ones that aren't blowing things up by accident and that kind of stuff, that are just exhibiting advanced characteristics in certain ways or ADD type symptoms, they're not considered a threat yet. But the ones that are considered a threat, they disappear very quickly. What most people have no idea is going on here. There are organizations set up in a number of countries already that if these children are identified by certain characteristics that you can sometimes see at birth, there's a couple reasons they're called indigos. One is some of them actually come in looking blue, and it's not because they have a heart problem. They come in with a blue tint to their skin that by about 3 months fades into a normal skin coloring. This is genetic again. Blue babies start to come out, they tend to disappear. They tend to get death certificates when they're not dead. Their mothers tend to think they died because there is government intervention going on with these children. It's not on the level of government that most people that work in the government know about. This is more of that beyond top security type stuff. There are things going on in this world that we are just not permitted to have information on. And the indigos, and understanding who they are, is key to understanding what's really going on in the big picture here. With the indigo children, the ones we need to pay attention to most right now are the ones that are bringing themselves into our attention. You're having children going around and shooting children in schoolyards these days. You're having children killing parents. You're having children, more and more and more children, being put on Ritalin because they don't cooperate in the school systems, and there's this whole system set up. Certain behaviors in the classroom, that gets sent to the counselor. The parent is advised to send the child to a psychologist. The psychologist is advised to use Ritalin and those kind of drugs to help the child adjust better. There's a railroading going on with the indigo children that is detrimental to them. But if it's detrimental to them, it's going to be detrimental to society eventually. Because when indigos, the energy in their system backs up, they can become violent. They can lose it completely. They're dealing with levels of energy and levels of consciousness coming into those little bodies that most of us never have to worry about, and psychology knows nothing about unless they understand the multidimensional structure of human identity, which unfortunately isn't the common model that's used in psychology right now. It's a model that indigos will need even to understand themselves. So in this presentation, we're going to get into primarily understanding who the indigo children are. Before we can help them, we need to realize how different they are from the average person, because they are quite different. And then we can start to explore what needs to be done in this society to accommodate these children, because whether or not we like it, they are here. And whether or not we want to admit they are what they are, they still are what they are. Once we can identify what that is, we can assist them with their problems. We can also discover if we might be one. Because indigos didn't just start coming in. They've been coming in little dribs and drabs for about 200 years. It's part of an evolutionary advancement program that we're going to talk about. Some people in this room, possibly many, are actually indigo genetic coded people. And you'll have certain experiences if you were. One of them is probably having a very difficult time being so sensitive as you grew up, because you have an awareness and a frequency in your consciousness that when you walk around in public schools and deal with the world the way it is out there, there's a part of you that just knows what is wrong with this picture? That you don't fit in. You feel there's a part of you that knows better than this. And even though you can't pull it in fully, this is what indigos are dealing with. They want to be a part of things, but things aren't supposed to be this way. They have a supposed to concept. They have something to compare it to because they have at least an intuitive memory of how things were and are in places where they work right, in systems that aren't structured like our psychological, our government systems, our socioeconomic systems. This is not a healthy world. This is a very sick world right now, and it's so sick that we've been living under mind control to believe it's okay, to believe this is a well world. It is not, and it's because of the ideas we use to build this world. We're taught to accept it because this is the way things are, and the way things are the way the experts tell us, whoever they are, and we teach our children the same thing, and as long as we comply and follow the rules, we have a nice little life that ends in death. Death and pay taxes. That's the only thing you'll really have to worry about. When indigos come in, they know this is not the way the universe works. It's an intuitive sense. They can't put words on it, but there's a rebellion that happens in them, and if that rebellion isn't addressed and respected for the fact that they're right, it can backfire, and they can become a real force to contend with, particularly the pyrokinetics that they have locked up in government facilities because they don't know what to do with them. They don't know what to do with children who can accidentally start fires when you get them upset. And you know what? The children who have that problem don't know what to do with themselves. It's scary for them because they don't have their full awareness yet as who they are, why they came in. They just know they don't fit and they can do some things that other people can't, and what's wrong with me? The indigo's children tend to end up feeling there's something wrong with them because they haven't fully awakened yet to remember who they are, why they came. And society will tell them, you're different. There's something wrong with you. You're not normal. And they try to suppress their qualities to make them normal. And that doesn't work either. So I'm going to flip. We're going to explore a bit. Let's see. Okay, we can go past that one. Honey. We're going to explore the gene code, first of all. And to explore the gene code, I'm going to do a quick recap. Okay, you can just move through those kind of fast, you know, until we get to charts and graphs and things. We're going to do a real quick recap on understanding relationships between dimensions, DNA, and consciousness. Because if you don't understand how these things fit together, you will not understand what an indigo is compared to a non-indigo. And you will not understand what indigos need to have done to help them. So do a real quick recap on now dimensions. When we talk about dimensions in the paradigm that most of you are from, have been in other workshops, so I don't have to go like, from kindergarten back up to here, which is good, saves time. Dimensions, they're interwoven layers of scalar waves. We have a definition for dimensions. Well, if you notice, with science, it's more of a word that's used to describe attributes of something, but it is not considered a something. It's not a noun. In our vocabulary, a dimension is a noun. It's describing a scalar field, a specific thing that has specific characteristics. So we have a model of reality that if you don't understand the interdimensional model, you will not understand who an indigo is and why it's important that they're here. So I want to show you where the dimensional structures and those paradigms fit with the whole indigo issue. Now, we have the dimensions or interwoven levels, layers of scalar waves. This is all in there. It's like a refresher in the book, so anybody that didn't get pieces of it, you see where they all fit. Scalar waves are points of standing waves composed of literally units of consciousness that flash on and off. Particle units, particle, particle, particum. There's a whole science behind this. So I'm not just winging it off the top of my head talking about vague stuff. I know what I'm talking about when I talk about this dimensional structure, whether science wants to agree with me or not. And right now, I don't have time to prove it to them. If I had 25 years to walk them through step by step and learn their terminology to plug it into mine, they'd be blown away. I don't have time, because right now, we have issues happening that we need to learn how to use energy quickly. And it's only the people who are beyond the point, well, prove it to me, who sense that, okay, teach me something. I'll learn and I'll work on the proof later. They're the people I speak to, because they're the ones that will make a difference here, while the scientists are still scratching their heads trying to figure out why there's solar changes happening that they haven't predicted and don't understand why they're happening. There are things happening here the scientists don't know yet. They don't know why. They're seeing observing symptoms. They're observing indigos. They're observing solar changes. They don't know what is happening. Somebody needs to get a group of people together that has some idea of what's happening so we can make it work in a way that's healthy for our race. All right, when we get into dimensions and scalar waves, I like this because it helps bring it all together. cyclic repeating patterns of flash line sequences form frequency bands. A dimension is one full frequency band. Now, frequency band is a term we've heard of here. Okay? Science talks about frequencies. If we can understand it one step deeper than that, that a frequency band is a repeating pattern of what's called flash line sequences. Flashing on and off of stationary, fixed, standing wave patterns, scalar waves. This is where frequency comes from. It's not just an observable symptom of something unidentifiable called the universe and its energy mechanics. Frequency is repeating patterns of flash line sequences that happen because of units of consciousness, part K, part Chi, part Cum, firing at certain specific rhythms on and off to each other. They are internal fission and fusion generators. In fusion, particle, antiparticle come together, creates an immediate reciprocal fission or replication. So it's a continual, perpetual motion universe we live in. And science hasn't been able to figure out how to identify this yet. It all comes down to scalar wave technology and understanding what scalar waves are, how they're literally forms of consciousness, and how everything is composed of consciousness. So it's a dimensional model that, give them about 50 years, and the right people, probably indigos, coming in to take the science jargon now and make it grow to where it can fit these concepts. These are our ways to take words like, muons, electrons, photons, and plug it into this model. They fit. But we're starting at the deep level, the morphogenetic level, the template of light, sound, and consciousness that everything else is built on. We'll work up to where all those other pieces that they've identified fit. So it's a model that, it is the model that's used in the future actively. We are being visited by beings from the future, whether we want to admit it or not, because they understand this model. Why can't we visit them? Because we don't understand this model. If science could open to that concept, they would start to realize, wow, we could learn something here, So I don't have time to argue with people who are saying, yeah, but, prove this, prove that. So like, here's the information. Take what you know. You go prove it to yourself. And I can teach you some abilities to open to your higher consciousness, so maybe it can guide you, but they don't want to know about this. So it's like people like this that are willing to say, okay, I'll learn something new. I'm open to learning. I would not doubt that a good percentage of you are indigos, because this is a model that resonates with indigos if they haven't been thoroughly programmed by peer pressure through the school systems. They will feel a sense of, that makes more sense than what I'm being taught. They'll respond to these types of models because they resonate with where they come from, with future time. Okay? Let's see. Morphogenetic structure. This all comes down to what we're doing with dimensions, scalar waves, frequency bands. We're talking about the templates that matter and consciousness are built upon, that give us the experience of space-time, matter, and physicality. That's what it comes down to, the core of what manifestation takes place on. If we can understand there is a model that shows us how these pieces fit together, we can understand a whole bunch of other things. But if you don't understand multidimensionality, you won't understand any of it. You won't understand indigos, you won't understand yourself, you won't understand what religion was trying to teach you all along, you won't understand what science is trying to find. So it's worth absorbing the model, and it'll grow. This model is just the bare bones, the beginning. There's a lot of technical stuff that I don't even want to deal with. Fortunately, it's not my contract, so I don't have to. I'm here to bring in the functional framework and to bring in the information on what needs to be done fast to make positive changes here. So I'm not going to haggle on details and like spend a million years teaching you mathematics from the future and that kind of stuff. We'll get there. Somebody else will do that job. Thank goodness. You could flip that. Okay, now, this is the classic structure. And finally, I've got it all where it's nice in typeset form. Other people have seen this 15-dimensional model in some of the chart packs and things. And we went from having literally rough hand-drawn ones to finally I figured out how to do graphics on the computer, so now I could pull them in decent form. This is a basic model of 15-dimensional structure. This is not how the dimensions relate to each other. They really take place all in the same space. All right, but this is like opening it up to show you the basic structure that you're working with. So it is a model, it's kind of like doing a painting as opposed to taking a photograph. All right, you're not going to go out there in the universe with a spaceship and somewhere find something like this hanging in the air that, there is your structure of how the universe is built. No, it's an intrinsic relationship that's trying to be shown here with these diagrams. We have basically our 5 harmonic universes. When I see HU there, Hue, we're talking harmonic universe for those who don't know that. Harmonic universe 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They're each 3-dimensional systems. This is where we get 3-dimensionality from. It's the relationship between angular rotation of particle spin with a 90-degree shift between each dimensional band that allows consciousness to perceive and project outward the illusion of three-dimensional reality. It is a holographic projection, and for certain reasons that have to do with our gene code, we perceive it as very physical and solid, much more so than it was ever intended to be perceived. And that is because of distortions in our gene code, which tells us that our gene code has something to do with manufacturing the hologram itself, which it does. Our gene code is much more than these little chemicals that science is identifying have something to do with structuring the whole imprint of the body. They're seeing only the surface of DNA. The gene code is much more than observable DNA. In these texts, I talk about DNA, and I talk in ways that scientists kind of look at me and go, what in God's name is she talking about? You know, they think of DNA meaning this, and it's a specific, substance. I know DNA as being something that goes much deeper than that. I use their term DNA because they are using DNA, this substance they have identified, as what they're calling the core blueprint of the human gene code. So I'm using their definition. We'll deal with the core blueprint of the human gene code, and I'll use your term DNA, but it means much more than you're using it right now. When I talk about DNA, I'm going down into the morphogenetic structure again, part of K, part of Chi, part of Cum, and their geometrical relationships to each other within the three-dimensional scale. So again, when I'm using science versus this paradigm, they do meet, but most scientific people don't see that meeting point yet, and they'll try to haggle on, well, DNA means this. You can't use it that way. I can use it any way I want to. First of all, if I want to use that word to show you what you're calling a core blueprint, you're calling that the core blueprint of the human genome. Fine. Let's take that concept, and let's take it deeper. You want to know how the core blueprint of the human genome functions? Here it is. It's a 12-strand pattern. And then we lose them because they can't see 12 strands. They've only identified a little tiny bit of what DNA, or the core template, really is. At some point, we'll make a distinction between the whole core template and the manifest DNA, because there is a distinction. What they're calling DNA is really a chemical translation of portions of that core template. So the template is something even deeper. It's a Cathara level. That's what we deal with in Cathara healing, the templates. But for now, when I talk about DNA, I'm referring to the expanded version of that definition as being the core template of the genome. It's important to understand how DNA functions. If, first of all, you want to be able to control your own consciousness. If you don't realize your consciousness and your DNA are intimately intertwined, if you don't realize that if your DNA is not activating properly, you can't bring in higher levels of consciousness because it serves as a block to those frequencies coming in. If you realize DNA is a grouping of scalar points that have certain relationships to each other, that need to be active in a certain way to bring other scalar waves that carry your consciousness in, you start to understand the relationship between your body, your mind, and your spirit. And this is a relationship that science to this day refuses to acknowledge because they can't figure out how to prove it. They're walking around in bodies. You think they'd be able to at least sense it, but they get so indoctrinated into what they're considering high science here because they don't have anything higher to compare it to, that they get caught up in the mumbo-jumbo jargon to the point where they have no idea how their consciousness relates to their mind or their spirit or their body. Spirit is something that doesn't even exist to most people in the scientific paradigms. And our societies are being led by these people. They're the experts now that tell us how everything works. They're the ones that decide the systems that will be built on how those things work. They don't know how things work. We're having systems built and structures of society set up to serve something that they don't know anything about. And they're putting themselves up as the experts. Science has become our God in this culture. And there's a backlash movement where there's a lot of people saying, forget it, I don't want science at all, and they go totally into religion because they have nowhere else to go with it. This is a medium point where you don't have to buy into heavy religious dogma from twisted, distorted documents that were left. There were good documents once upon a time, but boy, have they been messed with, and a lot of it just by men who were trying to control masses of populations. There's an option. It's learning the structure. It's learning the fact that there was never a separation between consciousness, body, and mind. There always and always will be a unit. But you can convince yourself in your hologram that this isn't true by believing a certain set of ideas that tell you these are separate entities and not intimately intertwined. Science will not show you how your spirit plugs into your mind, plugs into your body, because they don't know. They probably would try to show you, or they'd at least try to bottle it and market it and make a profit, if they knew how, okay? That's what a lot of where science goes now is about. That's a lot of where the paradigms that we're being taught as how things work and what the solutions to problems are, like Ritalin for indigo children. This has more to do with corporations that manufacture that drug and kickbacks going into programs, nonprofit programs that need funding given to them by people who manufacture Ritalin. This was just found. I saw, it was funny, I was getting ready to do the Indigo workshop. 3 o'clock in the morning one morning, the show comes on. I don't even know who broadcast it. It was on like one of those public service channels. Somebody did a documentary recently tracing the corporation that makes Ritalin and its relationship to the ADD Foundation. ADD Foundation is supposed to be a group of people that are helping children, parents of children, with children who have been diagnosed with attention deficit disorder and attention deficit hyperactive disorder. All right, one of the things that they endorse is the use of Ritalin as part of their protocol. It's a good thing, it will help the children. They have put together videos of parents. I had this child, and I took him in, and they had, identified him as this. Since a child's been on Ritalin, it's been a wonder. He's just been, so much better since he's had treatment. Like now he's controllable. This kind of thing. What the people in this documentary did, and I didn't have time to write all the things down. This was one of those, Spirit kind of sent it my way just so I'd be able to talk a little bit about it. It wasn't something to focus on in the workshop. But what they had discovered, and it was like, when I heard this, I was like, oh my God, they're really doing it. Talk about one world order nonsense happening here. What the people who made the documentary, and I can try to trace it, at least I think I have written down what the TV station was. What they had found was, first of all, and it's not mentioned in any of the literature, the organization, which I believe is national, maybe international at this point, that I think it's the ADD Foundation or whatever. This is the organization that if you have a child having problems, teacher has a problem with your child goes to a psychologist refers you to a support group, okay? You go to a support group for parents who are trying to deal with children that have been diagnosed with ADD. You get to that support group and they give you literature and they pat you on the back and say, oh, we'll help you. And all these poor parents are just trying to find a way to deal with this child that they don't know what is wrong. What they don't say in their literature, and what they had a very hard time tracking it down to the management levels of who is running this stuff anyway, is the fact that about 80% of their funding, nonprofit organizations, support groups, supposedly grassroots run by parents, 80% of their funding is from the corporation that manufactures Ritalin. That's not mentioned anywhere. Talk about possibly bias, All right. When the people who made this movie confronted the individuals that they traced as management, they did one of those song and dances, like kind of dodge the question, look around. Well, we didn't feel it was necessary to put that on there. Like, don't you think that's a little bit deceptive? Don't you think the parents that are being referred to your group as a support group with no bias should have the right to know that 80% of your funding that you depend on to function is coming from the corporation that manufactures the drug that you just so happen to be saying is wonderful to treat this, when in truth, the treatment level, it hasn't been being done long enough to know any long-term effects. The treatment level is not as high as they tell you it is. These children are being railroaded, and so are the parents. And it's actually criminal, the way it's being done, because it's all very quietly done misinformation, or not putting that information in the right places. They went to the corporation that manufactures it. I forget what the name is of it, but there's a corporation that manufactures Ritalin. They wouldn't comment. Other than issue like one of those statements that you don't talk to anybody, they just send you a little form letter that acknowledge that they do support numerous different types of nonprofit organizations for various reasons. Yeah, so you get them to buy, to endorse using your drugs to treat the problems. So the whole ADD movement is being amplified by this, and if this wasn't bad enough, what was even worse, this is where I got really scared. Like, this is beginning to sound like one of those sci-fi novels where, this one world order starts to take over from underneath and you don't even see it coming. There's a video that's put out by the government, by the educational systems in the government that are studying these things, that has this bunch of parents, okay, that just parents that happen to have indigo children, saying how this treatment has worked, and they're endorsing the drug therapy as something that appears to be very good for these children. Okay, they're not saying it's the only treatment, but they're saying it appears to be the way to go with these children, of course referring you to support groups, right? What they don't tell you about the video is that I think there were 3 primary parents featured. Each one of them had, at one point in the last 10 years, been one of the heads of the national offices of the ADD Foundation that's taking the funding from the place that, manufactures Ritalin.
You're referring to Chad.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, I had it all written down someplace, but it wasn't the focus of it. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. What is happening to these children, and what is happening to parents of these children? This is frightening stuff. Now we have government videos. And of course, everybody turns to the government when you don't know what to do and you're just a citizen and you want help. You go to doctors, you go to school systems, you go to government education programs because they're available. And you're being taught that this is the way this is to be handled. The reason you're being taught that comes down to bucks. It's not because they care about your kid, and it's not because they care about you. It's because they care about padding their own pockets. And they also care about making sure the pharmaceutical industry gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Drug therapy is what they would like to see as the thing of forever. It's profitable. It keeps people controllable. It gives medicine, science, and government, as a group that might want to hold hands someday, the ability to literally put you under mind control because you agree to let them. This is a problem that's happening here, and the Indigos are bringing it to the surface. It's starting to, when more and more of these children come out, and more children are being identified as ADD and hyperactive and all of this, there needs to be a point where some of these parents say, and some of them are already saying it, there's something, I just don't feel right about this drug therapy. I just don't feel right about this. I don't care what the experts tell me. And okay, my kid's out of control. I'm trying to figure out what to do with that, but I don't think that's the answer. On this show, interestingly, one more thing I want to say about this show is they had, I believe, 12 children who were on Ritalin, or there was another similar, what was it? No, it wasn't Prozac, Cyclert, I believe it's Cylert, that's it, yeah. They interviewed the children. They were from ages maybe 7 through 18. And they asked them, out of every one of those children, they said, I feel like I'm in space. They said, I don't even feel real anymore. I've told my mother I want to be off it, but she said no. It's like, yeah, it's like, I can think a little more clearly in certain ways. I can focus better. But I'm not even me. This is how these children were answering these things. The children are having their parents say, oh, we love you, we want to fix you. The kids are saying, I feel like I'm in outer space on this stuff. It's doing something bad to me. Please take me off it. And the parents are saying, no, I can't do that. I'm trying to help you. So it's a catch-22 all the way around. There has to be another solution. But the solution is going to come, okay, I'll take questions later, okay? The solutions are going to come by understanding, first of all, what in the world we're dealing with Indigo children. Because the experts are not going to figure this one out. If you don't understand multidimensional structure, you're not going to understand one iota what an Indigo represents. And you're also not going to understand the level of respect they deserve. Because they deserve a level of respect. They deserve to be accommodated here. They're not here by accident. They're here by design, and by plan, and by invitation. And they need your help to remember, once they come into the gene code, just like all of us, bang, the shades go down. And all of a sudden you're here, you don't remember who you were before you came here, and you begin a finite life experience. They need to awaken if they're going to finish what they came here to do. It's up to us, the parents of Indigos, the society around Indigos, even if you're not parents. We need to be aware that they're coming, aware that they're here, aware that they need our help, to give them the paradigm that they can use to awaken themselves, so they can finish doing what they came to do to help us. Because they came here to help us, but not just us. They came here as part of a very large plan that's going on. And this is something that it's probably going to make a lot of psychologists dealing with Indigos not want to hear it at all, because it's going to get into another area that there's many people who haven't made these connections yet. We have some interesting groups of people emerging in our society. We have Indigos over here with physical evidence of all these kids being stuck on ADD because they have all these weird characteristics that are associated with uncontrollable behavior. They're Indigos. We also have this other really weird group of people over here, the fringes of society, called your alien abductees, okay? People are reporting alien abduction phenomena and all of these things. They seem to be like worlds apart, having nothing to do with each other. Well, the big awakening here is going to be realizing both phenomena are real and both are totally interconnected. This is what we're going to explore as we get into, after we find out who they are, we're going to see where that fits and why especially people in psychology need to start to understand, to wake up, to get out of the mind control, cultural programming, and to realize what's going on around them if they really want to help people. Because again, you have another group of people, contactees, abductees, and a lot of people that are even just channeling are stuffed into this category of, you know, weirdos, okay, fringe of society stuff. You take them to a shrink, okay? And I call shrinks in psychology something different. A shrink is one from the old school because they shrink your mind. They will put you on drugs and they will put you in institutions if you astral project. If you talk about astral projecting, they'll put you on lithium or something else to make it go away, okay? They are helping you to shrink yourself. So when I refer to shrinks, I'm not being derogatory toward all people in psychology or psychiatry. True psychologists and psychiatrists are helping you to understand and develop your mind, your psyche. Shrinks are helping you to stunt it. And right now, the majority of the people in the psychology movement happen to be shrinks. Why? Because they've been taught to shrink their own minds and perceptions. They've been taught a model. They limit themselves, and they will limit you because they don't know how to do anything different. It needs to be acknowledged, if we want to become functional in dealing with the reality around us, that these fringe groups of people are trying to tell us something. Something is going on here. The abductees are not having sleep apnea problems. They are not having hallucinations. They did not get sexually abused in childhood and transposed it into latent repressed memories of having aliens mess with them. 99% of the cases are not having these problems. You may find one or two that picked up the theme from the TV and said, okay, let's do, you know, transfer it into that. But most people claiming contact with visitors of some sort are having contact with visitors. And this has everything to do with the Indigo children. I don't know if mainstream psychology is anywhere near ready to understand who Indigos are, because they're not just human children with special characteristics. Indigo children are hybrid children. We are in the middle of a race experiment.